Hey, devil demon. The blade and Mark's fist collided together, but instead of a roar, there was a crisp sound, as if the attack of the two had no power at all. But after a while, a substantial wind pressure suddenly blew up between the two of them. The originally calm sea surface suddenly sank under the strong wind pressure, and the seawater within tens of meters in diameter spun wildly. The huge pressure squeezed countless creatures in the sea into a pulp, turning the seawater here completely red. What? Mark's eyes were bloodshot, and he was about to fall into madness. The moment he fought against Ace, he realized that he still underestimated Ace's strength. His current pinnacle strike at the quasi-general level is still only comparable to Ace's knife. As if seeing through Mark's current thoughts, Ace actually showed a smile on his face. On par? How is this possible? In the next second, the saber energy formed by the two colored flames instantly separated from the blade of slaying demons, and the temperature increased by another 3 points, making the air sizzling. Under the sword aura, the air was like waves in a storm, with layers of waves, hitting Mark's body again and again. Click. Facing such an attack, Mark's domineering, armed color couldn't hold on at first, and suddenly made a sound of glass breaking, and then it shattered into pieces. I'm not reconciled. Mark's face became extremely ferocious because of his strong unwillingness. Originally, he thought that after sacrificing his own future and temporarily gaining the strength of a quasi-admiral by relying on secret methods, he could nip the threat of Ace, the Navy, in the bud. But why can't you die? Puff. The fiery two-color saber energy finally broke through Mark's defense completely, passing directly over Mark's body in just a split second. Mark's ferocious expression was always condensed on his face, and the next moment, his body was instantly ignited, turning into a strange two-color torch. After Mark was turned into fly ash, Ace's saber energy still rushed forward with an indomitable momentum, evaporating countless seawater all the way, and directly swept towards the 3 naval warships 100 meters away. Ace's face changed when he saw it. In his consciousness, the property on the 3 warships should be his private property. If this saber energy really struck the warship, wouldn't he suffer heavy losses? If his thoughts are heard by the Navy, I don't know if he will vomit blood. This is still in the battle, so he will start to count their things. Saint Charmarco, let's go. Charmarco's bodyguard in black said anxiously, if I participate in the battle, I won't be able to guarantee your safety. Fart. Charmarco kicked the man in black and shouted, what am I raising you for? Why don't you hurry up and help me catch that Ace? After hearing Charmarco's words, the man in black looked desperate, but he was trained as the bodyguard of the celestial dragons since he was a child. His morbid loyalty made him strictly abide by Charmarco's orders. Facing the flaming saber aura that was already in sight, the man in black rushed forward without the slightest hesitation, his arms covered with armed color, domineering aura, and rain-like fist shadows blasted towards the saber aura. Puff puff. Every time the bodyguard in black threw a punch, there would be glaring blood spatters on his arm. Obviously, although he also has the strength of a lieutenant general, this saber energy is no longer at the same level as him. The black-clothed bodyguard was completely blocking with his life, and the knife energy had been weakened by Mark once before, so at the moment when he exhausted all his strength, he finally blocked Ace's flame knife energy. It's just that the strange fire has eroded his body at this time, and he has no extra strength to disperse the flames on his body at this time. At the last moment of his life, he turned desperately to look at Charmarco on the warship. There is still concern for his safety in his eyes. However, the last Charmarco he saw just opened his mouth and said 2 words to him. Waste. Puff. The black-clothed bodyguard's chest stagnated, and a mouthful of blood spurted out, directly ending his own life. At the last moment, he would rather have that saber energy than he could block it. Woo. Ace took a deep breath, feeling that the strength in his body was weakening, and withdrew the devil demon with his backhand, and Ace fell on the wreckage of a pirate ship on the sea. A knife. Hacking an enemy at the level of a quasi-general and a lieutenant general at the same time, this is Ace's current strength. However, after swinging that knife, Ace has also directly entered a period of weakness. Lieutenant General Andy fell far away next to Giant John. His eyes were full of pain and helplessness. Just now he was still thinking that Mark could easily take down Ace with the strength of a quasi-general. But a moment later, his colleague died in front of his eyes. Dead without a corpse. Staring at Ace from afar, Andy, although full of hatred, dared not make any changes at all, for fear that Ace would cut him into flying ashes with a single blow. John, are you all right? Andy was already scared. He stared at Ace closely, and asked. Well. John stood up tremblingly. With the help of seawater, it took him so long to extinguish those strange flames. During this period, Mark had completely passed away. Looking at Ace in the distance, John wanted to avenge Mark in his heart, but reason made him suppress this desire. The powerful strength that Ace showed just now made him shudder. Ordinary quasi-generals are no match for him, so, in the end, John just gritted his teeth fiercely and shouted, "Withdraw." After finishing speaking, he turned around with Andy and fled towards the direction of the warship. Ace looked at him from a distance. He still seemed to be fighting on the surface, but in fact he secretly let out a sigh of relief. He is now in a weak stage. John and Andy are two lieutenant generals, either one can easily take him down. But the way they are fleeing in embarrassment now makes Ace feel a little refreshed in his heart. He raised his hat a little narcissistically, and secretly said, "It seems that I really have the demeanor of a master. A little bit of momentum can scare them away." But just when Ace was about to turn around and go back to the capital of Seven Waters, a pirate ship suddenly appeared on their flanks. It was dragged by two huge sea snakes, its whole body was red, and it was flying towards the city. With this battlefield approaching, Ace and the two lieutenant generals were stunned at the same time, then turned around and looked over together, and saw a peerless beauty in a red cheongsam on the bow of the pirate ship, with her hands raised in a heart shape, facing towards they drank sweetly. Sweet and sweet. The reddish heart-shaped light wave arrived in an instant, enveloping Ace and the two vice-admirals, trying to catch both of them in one go. The attack came very suddenly. Lieutenant General John and Mark were already covered with injuries, and their willpower became extremely weak because of resisting Ace's anger. So the desires in their hearts were easily hooked out. At this time, there was no time to react, and they directly turned into two stone statues with daring eyes. "Sister, isn't it good for us to attack the Navy like this?" Hancock's third sister, Marigold, looked worriedly at the two vice-admirals who had turned into stone statues. Hancock raised his slender and white arms, brushed aside the hair that was blown by the sea breeze on his forehead, and frowned slightly. "My sister, you have to understand that no matter what I do, the whole world will forgive me, because the concubine is so beautiful." These words are so narcissistic, but when they come out of Hancock's mouth, people can't refute them at all. Hancock's beauty can indeed be said to be overwhelming. Lord Snake Girl. The crew behind her, even if they were all women, screamed in unison, overwhelmed by Hancock's beauty. At this time, the ship of the 9 snake pirates had already sailed to the side of the 3 warships. The giant python Salome turned into a throne-like chair. Hancock sat on it gracefully, waved his hand lightly, and ordered, "Soldiers of the Amazon Lily, bring all the treasures on the warship to this king." Yes. The female warriors on Daughter's Island excitedly took out their bows and arrows, jumped over the sea with agility, and rushed towards the sailors who were several times their size. Boom boom boom. These Amazon warriors, each of them has mastered the armed color, domineering, and the arrows wrapped around the domineering look like cannons, killing the Navy in an instant. Hancock lay sideways on the throne with a satisfied smile on his face. At this time, "Hey, don't destroy my warship." Suddenly, a somewhat dissatisfied voice came from the side of the 9 snake pirates, causing Hancock's smile to froze on his face. "How can you be fine?" The second sister, Sandersonia, turned her head and looked over, and found that it was the kid other than the 2 lieutenant generals. She couldn't believe it. No one can escape the charm of the eldest sister. Of course, this person is Ace. The reason why he was caught by Hancock's sweet wind but did not turn into a stone statue was not because he did not respond to Hancock's beauty. After all, unlike Luffy, he doesn't understand anything. However, in the face of the falling heart flame that can burn emotions, these desires can only be turned into heart fire, making some more contributions to Ace's physical strength. You're not even a little bit moved by my beauty?" The Empress had already stood up at this time, staring closely at Ace's face, trying to see a change of emotion from his face, hoping to see that Ace was just pretending to be indifferent. But she was doomed to be disappointed. Ace shrugged helplessly, and said with a naive expression, "Sister, you really look good. But I'm just a child." "You do not say. Ace is just a 12-year-old kid on the surface." Hancock suddenly covered his chest, as if he had suffered internal injuries. He stepped back several steps, pointed at Ace with trembling fingers, and was speechless for a while. You call me big sister?" Hancock is 20 years old this year, and it is the best time for a girl, the most beautiful age. After hearing Ace call him at this time, now I feel like vomiting blood. But she couldn't refute it yet. Could it be that she had the cheek to say that she was only 10 years old? Who is 10 years old and has breasts as big as hers? Sister. Are you okay? Hancock's two younger sisters stepped forward and asked with concern. Hancock clutched the waves in his chest, slumped on the throne behind him, and kept muttering, "Impossible. Even if it's just a child, there can't be a man who won't bow down at my feet." Sister. Since they escaped from Marie Joya together, the sisters had never seen Hancock lose his composure like this. Second sister. Third sister. Get rid of this rude brat. After holding back for a long time, Hancock suddenly opened his eyes. I don't allow such a man to exist. Take his head for me. Yes. It's on us. Sister. The 9 snake pirates going to see this time as the most important battle to consolidate the status of the 3 sisters. They do not allow any accidents to happen. Hancock's 2 younger sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, took out their weapons and attacked Ace on the side of the ship, turning into 2 terrifying giant snakes nearly 10 meters in length while running. Snake fruit, boa constrictor and king cobra form? Ace was carrying the devil, which was close to his height, and looked at the 2 younger sisters who were rushing towards Hancock. He didn't have any intention of doing anything, but sat down on the side of the boat instead. He doesn't want to fight Hancock and the others now. After all, he is still in a weak stage. And they almost can't take care of themselves. Master Snake Girl, there is a guy here who says he is a celestial dragon. In an instant, the figures of Sandersonia and Marigold came to an abrupt stop, and the 3 words Tianlongren seemed to be a curse, making them sweat profusely for a moment. Originally hidden in the depths of their minds, those days when Marie Joya's life was worse than death seemed to appear before their eyes again. Sandersonia and Marigold were no longer in the mood to deal with Ace, but turned to their backbone, Boa Hancock, for help. Sister. Sister. The voices of the 2 were a little trembling, but they found that their sister was trembling all over at the moment, and her face was covered with complex emotions of fear and anger. Charmarco. Hancock stared at the Draco on the opposite warship, and squeezed out the name through his teeth. What? Is it him? After Sandersonia and Marigold heard the name, their last calmness disappeared, and the dragon's hooves on their backs were even more painful. 8 years ago, this guy branded the 3 sisters with the mark of slavery on their backs, and tortured them for 6 full years. At this time, the battle on the warship was coming to an end, and ordinary Navy soldiers could not stop a group of Amazon warriors who had mastered their domineering aura. And Charmarco was also taken to the ship of the 9 snake pirates. This guy has clearly become a prisoner, but he is still arrogant and vicious. You stinky women, let me go. Charmarco said with a stern face. You are all finished. If you touch me, a noble Tianlong, an admiral will come over soon. At that time, I will you all become my slaves. In fact, Charmarco is not interested in women at all, he just likes to see his slaves screaming under various punishments. Master Snake, what about this celestial dragon? The soldiers all looked at Hancock together, wanting to ask for her opinion. But at this time, Hancock was trembling all over, and his body shrank into a ball, as if he had turned into a little girl again, with a helpless expression on his face. When Charmarco saw the 3 Boya sisters, his eyes widened suddenly, as if he recognized them. You are. When Hancock's 2 younger sisters saw Charmarco's performance, they immediately became desperate. As long as he revealed the status of their slaves, all the efforts they had made so far in Amazon Lily would be in vain. Looking at the expressions of the 3 Boya sisters, Charmarco suddenly seemed to understand something. He didn't expect his slave to become the empress of a country after escaping from Marie Joya. Immediately, he let out a burst of wild laughter, and was about to reveal Hancock and the others' identities as slaves. You guys. As soon as he said the 4 words, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. He barely looked down, and saw the tip of a big knife passing through his chest, and blood spurted out continuously. You. This kind of pain is unbearable for the pampered Tianlong people like him. He immediately fell to his knees, piss and feces flowed, and howled continuously. Puff. Ace pulled out, Devil Demon, frowned and looked at Charmarco lying on the ground, his face was full of disgust. Throwing a purple flame towards him casually, the flame instantly enveloped Charmarco, stopping his miserable howls abruptly, and the scene finally became quiet again. You. Before the helplessness on Hancock's face faded, he watched Ace kill Charmarco with a knife. He is a celestial dragon. So what? Ace raised his eyebrows, the flames evaporated all the blood on the devil demon knife, and Ace resisted it on his shoulder again. Is it not the best thing to kill this disgusting guy? Choose? The complexions of the 3 Boya sisters changed, and they suddenly had a feeling that the child in front of them seemed to know their background very well. And they also had to admit that the measures Ace took were the best solutions. However, during the 6 years of Marie Joya, the shadow that Charmarco brought to the three Boya sisters was so great that after they saw that guy, they couldn't raise their hearts to resist for a while. And the death of Charmarco today undoubtedly made the three sisters completely relieved of a heart problem. Can you tell us your name? Hancock stood up, looking at Ace with an expression full of gratitude. She and her two younger sisters bowed slightly to Ace and saluted. My name is Ace. Ace replied casually. Master Snake Girl, how could you? Obviously, the Amazon warriors felt a little annoyed when they saw their empress bowing to a child. Shut up. All of you. From today on, His Excellency Ace is our honored guest of Amazon Lily. Hancock snapped. You all forgot about today's affairs, understand? Yes. Yes, Master Snake Princess. In an imperial country like Amazon Lily, the orders of the Empress are supreme, and all soldiers respectfully obey them. After hearing the answer from his soldiers, Hancock swung all his men back. When only Ace and their sisters were left here, he looked at Ace again. He seemed hesitant at first, but he bit after biting his lip. He summoned up the courage to ask, do you know who we were a few years ago? It might cause you trouble. As he said that, he was about to take off the cheongsam on his body, and wanted to show Ace the hooves of the dragon on his back. Wait. Ace quickly stopped. He is not the real gentleman of Luffy, who can't stand this kind of stimulation. It's just a hoof of a dragon. I know what it looks like. Besides, I killed all the dragons. Still afraid of these? The third sister Marigold on the side asked hesitantly. Do you know what will happen after killing the Tianlong people? You mean there will be an admiral coming? Ace shrugged indifferently. So what? It's not like I haven't fought them before. What? What? You fought against the general. The second sister Sandersonia's eyes widened in shock, and she asked incoherently. Then why are you still alive? No, I mean, Ace, how old are you this year, my lord? Ace was speechless, but after coughing, he replied, I'm 12. 12 years old. You have the ability to fight against the Admiral of the Navy. Hancock's two sisters looked at Ace with a little more reverence. Hey, why are you only 12 years old? Hancock, on the other hand, blushed a little, as if he was a little disappointed because of the age gap with Ace. But she still asked with some expectation. For us, it doesn't matter even if you face the general? Kindness? What's the situation? Don't just make up your mind, okay? Not for you. In fact, Ace was only reminded by the system that he felt the breath of the devil in the body of the Tianlongren, so he killed Charmarco, and helping the three Boya sisters was just a matter of passing. But how did Ace know that in the eyes of Hancock and the others, Ace who shot and killed Charmarco was much more handsome than any Prince Charming? Moreover, although Ace is still young, but because his physical strength has reached the level of a lieutenant general, at this time he has a height close to 1.7 meters, and his figure is close to that of an ordinary youth. He is treated like a child. I never said that. After beheading Charmarco just now, Ace felt a demonic energy that was far more powerful than the devil fruit, and was wiped out by Devil Demon. So now he wants to go back quickly and check the changes in the different fire system. So I don't have much time to chat with Hancock and the others. Then what should we do to repay you? Hancock was a little shy and twitchy, secretly said, even if Master Ace asks me to marry him, I can wait for you to grow up. Ace looked at Hancock's expression and felt a little dizzy. There was something wrong with the direction of the plot. Ahem. Then I'll just say it. Of course, Ace would not let Hancock agree with him. After coughing twice, he pointed to the three warships on one side and said, these three warships and their contents were originally mine. Now you intervene. Now, I want to embarrass you. I have 2 ships and you have 1. How about it? It's all for you. Hancock's tone was gentle and he said it without hesitation, which made Ace a little embarrassed. Ahem. Then there's no need. Just pack up the things on the 2 boats and send them to the shore. I'll go first. Ace was a little flustered, afraid of what would happen if he stayed any longer, so he just closed after starting Slay Demon. He jumped off the side of the ship of the 9 snake pirates. Hancock looked at Ace's farther and farther figure, covered his mouth and chuckled, and murmured. I thought you didn't respond to me all this time. I didn't expect you to be shy. Sister. What about those Navy soldiers? Second sister pointed to the sailors who were all tied up into rice dumplings, and asked. After Hancock heard this, his smile restrained, he frowned, and regained the arrogance of a generation of empress, waved his hand casually, and said. Kill them all. As soon as the empress gave an order, the warship that was tied to the navy immediately had people's heads rolling, Blood flowed like a river, and the entire navy was killed. Hancock sat sideways on Salome's body, facing the bloody scene in front of him. His emotions did not fluctuate at all. "Sister, what are you doing?" The second sister was a little puzzled. Although the elder sister was usually a bit egotistical, she wouldn't be so cruel. "Besides our 9 snake pirates and Master Ace, there is no need for other living people to know about the death of the Tianlong people here," Hancock said lazily. "Also, let the soldiers quickly count the loot and send it to Mr. Ace." "Yes." The second sister understood what Hancock meant. After all, killing the Tianlongren was a heinous crime. After killing all the Navy who witnessed the incident, even if it could not prevent the Navy from knowing the truth, at least it could delay the government's discovery. So she didn't ask any more questions, and turned around to coordinate with the third sister to count the trophies of the soldiers. At this time, Ace has returned to Tom's studio. "You are very good." Hawkeye was still holding his knife, expressionless, but he complimented Ace anyway. Obviously, Hawkeye must have seen all of Ace's previous battles with the 3 lieutenant generals of the Navy. And if he, the world's great swordsman, can take the initiative to praise him, it means that the strength shown by Ace is indeed amazing enough. Ace was busy going back to check the alien fire system at this time, so he subconsciously replied. "I know." Hawkeye's face darkened. He had never seen such a shameless person, and he had to be more modest when talking to seniors. "In other words, why did you make yourself so upset in the end when you obviously praised him?" Immediately, Mahawk felt that it was uncomfortable to say a word with Esther, and immediately turned, back on his body, with a dark face, turned around and left without saying a word. Furiously determined, he must quickly help Ace take 3 shots, and then leave immediately. Ace scratched his head, but didn't realize what was wrong with Hawkeye, so he didn't think too much about it. He opened the door and walked in. He chose a room and sat down cross-legged. Ace's consciousness directly entered the strange fire system. "System, is what you just said true?" Ace asked with a serious face. "Well, I didn't expect the matter to be so serious." The system's tone was also unprecedentedly serious. "The guardians of this world today have such a strong demonic aura on them, and they have fallen to this point." "You mean they ate devil fruits?" Ace was a little puzzled. "I told you before that the devil in the devil fruit is essentially just a curse. But the aura of this Tianlongren is already a real devil." The system paused, and added, "A real demon from beyond the sky." Ace's pupils shrank, as if he had grasped a secret of this world. He asked with some hesitation, "The curse in the devil fruit, can't it be caused by these demons from beyond the sky?" The system didn't answer, but Ace could feel that the system had already accepted it by default. "Do you know why the Tianlong people have such a high status?" The system did not continue the topic just now, but instead asked Ace such a question. "Didn't they say that they are the descendants of the 800 kings who established the world government 20 years ago?" Ace didn't understand why the system would ask this question. For this reason, they still call themselves descendants of the Creator. "Do you think this is reasonable?" The system asked calmly. "Just because of this, let them have such great privileges?" After hearing what the system said, Ace was stunned. He really felt that the privileges of the celestial dragons were unreasonable, and this privilege has allowed them to be arrogant and domineering for 800 years. Tianlong people don't participate in politics or join the army. They only know to stay on Marie Joya to enjoy a luxurious life. The key is that they don't actually hold the real military and political power in their own hands. But those people with real power, people like the 5 old stars of the world government, no one objected to their status. For the privileges of Tianlong people, all unconditional support. Really unreasonable. Why? Ace asked for an answer. "It's very simple." The system was silent for a while, then sighed, "Because this is the whole world, and it owes them. Their ancestors gave their lives for this world and won such privileges for them, but..." The system's voice suddenly became high-pitched. "Now they have forgotten the honor of their ancestors, and they are not the same as the demons outside the sky. I don't know, I think their world aristocrats should be coming to an end soon." Ace has been listening silently, his brain thinking fast, and sorting out several important information from the system's words. First of all, the ancestors of the Tianlong people are not only the founders of the world government, but also the heroes who saved the whole world, sacrificed themselves, and stopped the enemies who invaded the world. This makes their descendants, that is, the Tianlong people, have obtained unimaginable privileges, and they can get the greatest strength without any effort. Secondly, the real enemy of this world seems to be a creature known as a demon outside the sky. 900 years ago, with the efforts of the ancestors of the Tianlong people, it was temporarily blocked, but it still cursed the treasure of this world, the devil fruit. This is enough to reflect the power of this creature. In the end, what makes Ace feel a sense of crisis is that the descendants of heroes in this world, those celestial dragons, have been eroded by the demons beyond the sky. Although the ancestors of those heroes had nothing to do with the descendants of these bears, it was enough to show that after 900 years, those demons from beyond the sky returned again. Thinking of this, Ace asked the system a few more questions, such as where the outer demon came from, the real name and origin of the devil fruit. But the system seems unwilling to say more about these deeper messages, but keeps emphasizing that when Ace's physical strength rises to the level of a general, he will tell him everything. Ace saw that the system was soft and hard, so he had no choice but to stop asking, but turned his attention to the small tripod in the different fire space. He beheaded a celestial dragon this time, and the demonic energy eliminated was stronger than that of Mariah. I don't know what good things the system will take out. Ace is looking forward to. First of all, Kingming Shodan floated out of the medicine cauldron, but this time there were 2 pills, and then another crimson pill floated out. The aura released from the pill was far from comparable to Qingming Shodan. Choose one. Returning life pill, the 7th grade pill. As long as the head is not directly chopped off, or the heart is directly shattered, the returning life pill can directly save a life. The system said lightly. I want to remind the host, the last time the 6th grade pill was rewarded, it was because the host eliminated the demon curse for the first time, and this time it is also because the host discovered the mutation of the Tianlongren, so the reward is particularly generous. So if the host wants to get rewards in the future, he has to follow the rules. After the system finished speaking, it passed an exchange form into Ace's consciousness. 6th grade elixir. Eliminate 100 points of magic energy. 7th grade elixir. Eliminate 1000 points of magic energy. 8th grade pill. Eliminate 10,000 points of magic energy. Ace chose the life-returning pill without hesitation first. Didn't he see that the magic energy to be eliminated in exchange for the 7th rank pill is 10 times that of the 6th rank pill? A lieutenant general's level is 100 points of magic energy, a quasi-general level is 1000 points, and a general's level is 10,000 points, the system added. After listening, Ace called up his own attribute panel. Attributes. Constitution, Lieutenant General, 0. Spiritual Fire Essence Body Art, the 4th stage. Body Energy. 83 210ths eliminate magic energy. 112 different fire. Falling Heart Flame, Qinglian Ground Fire, Volcanic Stone Flame. The 2 big sharp knives Ace has not yet devoured, and Ace has been at sea these days, and the conditions for exercise are not very good, so the 83 points of pure body energy are almost all from the fallen heart flame spontaneously tempering Ace's body, so the effect caused. It is worthy of being a practice cheat. This is equivalent to lying on your own bed, doing nothing, but the deposit on the bank card is increasing by itself. When Ace secretly thought that he chose the different fire, he did not choose the wrong one. And in the attribute column, the line that was added should be the points that will be consumed to redeem the pill. With a glance, Ace roughly understood the origin of the 112 points. The demon formed by the curse in Mariah's body was stronger than the curse in the ordinary devil fruit, but weaker than the authentic magic energy in the Tianlongren's body. So the one in Mariah's body should be worth 10 points, and the 2 points should be the fruit curse in the body of the poisonous scorpion and the captain of the cancer pirates. To Ace's surprise, the magic energy in an ordinary Tianlongren's body is comparable to that of a lieutenant-level demon from beyond the sky, as high as 100 points. This shows how dangerous the situation has become. However, the situation of the whole world is not something that Ace can consider for the time being, so with a thought, he first took out 100 points and exchanged it for a 6th grade elixir, Kingming Shodan. Although each person can only take 1 pill of this kind, there are many people who need to increase their lifespan, so of course the more the better. Garp, Zepha, Papa Whitebeard, and even the veterans of the Roger Pirates, Ace has a steelyard in his heart. In this way, Ace already has 2 Kingming Shodans and a higher value returning life pill. Entering the different fire space this time, Ace also planned to tidy up his things, so he simply swallowed the 2 large knives. Suddenly, the attribute bar changed again. Attributes. Constitution, Lieutenant General, 3 Spiritual Fire Essence Body Art, the 4th stage. Body Energy. 23 240ths eliminate magic energy. 12 different fire. Falling Heart Flame, Qinglian Ground Fire, Volcanic Stone Flame. According to the system, it is more difficult to obtain the pure body energy every time a major stage is improved, so a big sharp knife increases the pure body energy by about 300 points. This also allowed Lieutenant General Ace's physical strength to completely stabilize. Ace. Ace. It's bad. Brooke was turned into stone. Suddenly, Luffy shouted from outside the room. Ace was a little speechless, felt a toothache, and his consciousness returned to his body. Without even thinking about it, Ace can guess what's going on outside. Pushing open the door with a black thread, Ace saw Luffy circling around a stone skull statue by the door, scratching his head anxiously. On the opposite side of the stone statue of the skeleton, there stood the three Boya sisters headed by Hancock, and the faces of the three Boya sisters were also a little ugly at this time. Luffy, what's going on? Although he had already guessed a bit, Ace decided to ask the situation first. Seeing Ace come out, Luffy pouted angrily, pointed at Hancock and said, "This bad woman, with glowing hands, turned Brooke into stone." Ah. Hancock's complexion changed, and he felt another pain in his chest. What kind of players did he meet today? Ace was fine. Why is there another kid here who is completely unaffected by her charm? She wants to go up and beat this brat up, elder sister. Hancock's two younger sisters hurried forward to support their older sister. Ace stretched out his hand to rest his forehead. He had already seen all kinds of belongings packed behind the three Boya sisters. They must have come to send money. After hesitating for a while, Ace still asked Luffy, "Did Brooke say anything?" "Brooke wants to see their underwear." Luffy said innocently, he really didn't understand what was wrong with it. "Got it. Sure enough." Ace looked at Hancock and the others with apology, and said, "I'm really sorry, my brother really doesn't understand. As for Brooke." Ace glanced at the stone statue of the skeleton, and added helplessly, "He has no bad intentions. When you leave later, help him untie it." "Brother." Hancock was taken aback for a moment, glanced at Ace, then at Luffy, and suddenly his eyes lit up. Having a good relationship with Ace's brother, wouldn't it be a step closer to Ace? Thinking of this, Hancock put on a big sister's kind smile, leaned in front of Luffy, squatted and said, "Brother Luffy, sister scared you. I apologize to you. From now on, in front of your brother, say something nice to my sister, okay?" Humph. Luffy seemed very angry with Hancock for turning Brooke into a stone statue. He folded his hands on his chest, tilted his head and pouted coldly. Hancock took out a lollipop and handed it to Luffy. Luffy took the lollipop, smiled happily, and kept nodding while licking the candy. Ace was stunned. What is this all about? Will you do the deal in my presence? And my dear brother, you bought you with a lollipop, don't you think Brooke will cry when he finds out? Ahem, it's almost done. Ace coughed and said, "It's time for us to leave the capital of Seven Waters." "Okay. Lord Ace, I'm free to go to Nine Snakes Island." Hancock stood up and handed Ace a life card shyly, with a lip print on it. "At this time please keep my concubine's life card." Ace accepted it reluctantly, but found that Hancock had no intention of leaving at all, but stared straight at him and stretched out his right hand in front of him. "What do you mean? Brother is stupid. My sister wants to exchange cards with you," Luffy said, licking the candy. Ace's eyes widened. How could a fool like Luffy know more than himself? "It's the proprietress of the bar in Windmill Village, Sister Makino taught me." Luffy pointed to Ace solemnly and said, "Brother, you must be polite." "Ah. What did those guys teach Luffy during the year I was away?" But seeing Hancock's little hand stretched out in front of her and her expectant eyes, Ace really couldn't refuse, so he took out his life card and tore a small piece for Hancock. After Hancock took it, he carefully stuffed the life card into his arms, and then he left contentedly. Before leaving, he returned Brooke to his original state. "Yo ho ho, where are the three beauties?" Boom. Ace punched him without hesitation. Brooke didn't know if he had been trapped in the mist for 40 years, and something was wrong. In his eyes, it seemed that as long as they were women, no matter what they looked like, they were all beautiful women, and he wanted to see all their underwear. It can be said to be a real warrior. But Ace beat him. It has nothing to do with this, it's just an itchy hand. Regardless of Brooke, who was lying on the ground crying silently with a big bag on his head, Ace clapped his hands and turned to look at the big and small bags of belongings on the floor of the room. "As soon as I finished spending the money, the Navy sent me money." Ace couldn't help but sigh with emotion. He clicked his tongue twice. What a good man. Opening the package, and simply counting it, the cash alone has more than 3 million Baileys, plus some other properties. It is estimated to be over 5 million Baileys. It seems that these three warships should be the special warships of the three lieutenant generals, and their property should be placed in the warship's treasury. After all, for these lieutenant generals, there is no place that is safer than their own exclusive warships. But who would have thought that the powerful lineup of 3 lieutenant generals would be directly wiped out? Now, it's all cheaper for me. Ace smiled slightly, stretched out his hand towards the front of his body, and put all these big and small bags into the different firespace. Next, the 9 snake pirates pulled anchor and set sail, and then Tom also took Frankie to bid farewell to Ace and the others, and went directly to Fishman Island in Ace's original small sailboat. With a chicken leg stuffed in his mouth, Luffy watched Tom and his boat gradually go away, and asked, "Ace, are we leaving?" Ace touched Luffy's head, squinted his eyes and looked towards the end of the sea level, and replied, "We will stay for 2 more days to help Uncle Bingshan solve some troubles." Bingshan has now acquired a medium-sized shipbuilding company according to Ace's order, and renamed it Carrera, and began to wait for an opportunity to integrate the shipbuilding industry of the entire Seven Waters capital. With sufficient financial support, coupled with Bingshan's superb shipbuilding technology, Ace believes that as long as Bingberg is given time, he can definitely achieve this goal. But that's on the premise that no one gets in the way, so Ace is here to impress the world government a bit more. After completely attracting their attention to him, he left the capital of Seven Waters to create a better environment for Bingshan to play. At this time, the Navy headquarters has been in a mess. The news has just been uploaded from Marie Joya that the noble celestial dragon man, Charmako, suddenly burned out his life paper. The place of death is the capital of Seven Waters, and the murderer is Portgas D. Ace. No one doubted the authenticity of this news, and no one dared to ask them how they knew so clearly, because it was the news from Wu Laoxing himself. Wu Laoxing directly designated Akainu and ordered him to rush to the capital of Seven Waters as quickly as possible, and execute Portgas D. Ace on the spot. As long as the corpse is not allowed to be captured alive. This time, even the warring states had no way to stop it. Tianlongren died on a warship of his navy, and he, the marshal, could hardly absolve himself of the blame. If it hadn't been for Steel Ji Yukong, the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies, to protect him, the warring states period might not even be able to keep the position of marshal. Hey! Standing at the port, Sengoku watched Akainu sailing out of the port in high spirits on a battleship. He could only sigh helplessly. In the eyes of those world government officials, the importance of myself as the admiral of the Navy headquarters seems to be inferior to a disgusting Tianlong man. Turning around a little lonely, Sengoku re-entered the main fortress. No matter how dark the government is, Sengoku will not leave like Garp and Zephyr, 2 old friends. He will do his best to protect more innocent civilians. This is the justice of the warring states period. Ace, Ace. Let me see this time, how can you escape from my palm? Akainu stood on the bow of this fast warship with a cruel smile on his face. He was still thinking about how to find a chance to kill that nasty boy Ace. I didn't expect Ace to commit such a big crime as murdering the Tianlong people. God help me too. At this time, there was only a hole left in the right ear of the red dog, and the ear was completely gone. He touched the hideous scar on the right ear, and the expression on his face became vicious again. He secretly vowed that this time he must leave Ace completely alone. 2 days later, Bingshan's Carrera company was completely on track, and both the dock and various workers were fully in place. To be able to successfully complete the first phase of the goal, I have to say that the timing of the establishment of the company was chosen too well. The capital of Seven Waters has been a city famous for its shipbuilding industry since a long time ago. In recent years, it has been deeply affected by the era of great pirates. The merchant ships transporting materials have been robbed by pirates, and the shipbuilding industry has been hit hard. Although Tom invented the sea train in the past 2 years, all shipbuilding companies have reached the brink of bankruptcy. Even the wages of the employees can hardly be paid. So after the Carrera company was established, it was easy to recruit a lot of skilled workers, and some workers even suggested that they only need to take care of the food. At this time, Ace stood side by side with Hawkeye, standing on the beach and looking at the sea. What the hell do you want? Hawkeye first broke the silence. In the past 2 days, he witnessed Ace and Bingshan set up a shipbuilding company together, acquiring, poaching, and annexing them. After the capital of Seven Waters has gained a firm foothold, Hawkeye had to admit that he still underestimated Ace. Start a company and make money, Ace replied casually. Nonsense. Hawkeye rolled his eyes. That's not what he was asking. Hawkeye has been on the Great Route for decades, and has seen countless pirates. Most of the pirates carry bounties and live a day without tomorrow. After getting the money, they want to spend it immediately. Company? And any pirate who does such a thing, their ambitions are beyond the imagination of ordinary pirates. Your Excellency Mahawk. This is the first time Ace has spoken to Hawkeye in such a serious manner. Have you ever thought that no matter how powerful a person is, there is nothing he can do in this boundless sea? Very limited. Only by establishing a faction, having your own partners, and having enough money, can you hold true freedom in your own hands. Ace said here, and invited with a smile. How about it? Your Excellency Mahawk, you have not interested in joining our Yandy pirates? The eagle-eyed golden pupil shrank slightly, and the ambition displayed by the young man in front of him made him, who had already been as hard as iron, not help but feel slightly moved. However, Hawkeye didn't agree, but turned his head to look at the end of the sea level again, looked at a warship that gradually revealed its outline and said, "You should solve the trouble in front of you first." On the bow of the warship, Akainu stood with his hands behind his back. Right in front of him, the capital of the Seven Waters came into his sight. "My lord, I have investigated according to your request. Lieutenant General Garp is still in the East China Sea. Behind Akainu," a secretary reported. "Besides, we have also blocked the news, so Lieutenant General Garp will not know the situation here." Hearing this, Akainu's brows relaxed a lot. The strength Garp showed last time made him feel a little afraid of Garp from the bottom of his heart, so he made arrangements in advance. Now, knowing that Garp is not here, there is no strong man behind Ace. Such a small lieutenant general is not allowed to be manipulated by him. HMPH. The last time you escaped because of that old guy Garp. This time, I'll see how you die. Akainu smiled distortedly. On his right cheek, the scar caused by Ace, it seemed like earthworms wriggling non-stop, making Akainu's expression even more ferocious. "Your Excellency must be able to catch it." The secretary flattered at the right time, which made Akainu feel more comfortable. On the beach of the capital of Seven Waters, Ace and Hawkeye saw the red dog on the bow of the warship. It seems that the one who came as a general. Hawkeye showed no fear at all, but asked with a smile, "Do you want me to take action?" From Hawkeye's point of view, Ace may have good strength, but in front of an admiral of the Navy headquarters, he may not even be able to take a move at all. After listening to Hawkeye's words, Ace smiled noncommittally, and instead of answering, he turned his hand and took out Devil Demon. Hawkeye's pupils shrank slightly. As the strongest swordsman in the world, Hawkeye could feel the power of this sword. The quality of this sword was already infinitely close to the supreme sword. There are so many secrets in front of this kid. After giving "Yi" to himself without any hesitation, he was able to take out such a precious knife with ease. "Let me try it first." Ace held the knife in both hands, but he did not refuse Hawkeye's help, but if possible, he still wanted to hide Hawkeye's trump card for a while. In addition, he also wanted to see how far the gap between himself and Akainu had narrowed during this period of time. Devil Demon holding high above his head, Ace stared closely at the warship directly in front of him. The clothes on his body moved automatically without wind. Immediately afterwards, raging four-color flames surged out of Ace's body like roaring waves. A vortex whirling crazily formed around him, and the center of the vortex was where the blade of Devil Demon was. At this moment, the entire beach was covered by the flames without any shadows. The extreme heat made the crustaceans on the beach come out of the hot sand, desperately opening their shells, trying to keep themselves cool. Some. Swish. The flames spewed out fast, but retracted even faster. In just a split second, the sky was illuminated into flames of four colors, which were suddenly compressed into a slender saber aura of four colors, which continued to flow on the blade of Magic Killer, trembling, as if it was about to explode in the next second. This is the move that Ace has developed in the past few days. The last time he faced several lieutenant generals, he used double color stacking flame slash, which actually has a bit of this move. The Buddha's Wrathfire Lotus is converted into the form of sword energy, which avoids the weakness of its attack range being too small. And this knife, Ace has already used his full strength, and the four colors that are constantly shining on the knife's aura are enough to show that this move has the power comparable to four colors Buddha's Fury Lotus. Cut. Ace let out a roar. The veins in his arms were exposed, as if he was under tremendous pressure, but in the end his arms suddenly fell from his body. Suddenly, a piercing scream sounded in the air, and several seabirds that passed by unintentionally, after flapping their wings twice, were startled by the sudden sound and fell directly from the air, smashing into it. Below the surface of the sea. Blue, purple, red, orange. The originally blue seawater suddenly turned into these four colors when the saber energy flew past, and boiled instantly. This four-color saber energy, with an indomitable and terrifying momentum, slashed towards the warship where Akainu was located. Hawkeye on one side narrowed his eyes slightly, seeing all of Ace's performance in his eyes, and his expression became a lot more serious, because he suddenly discovered that although he had repeatedly raised his evaluation of Ace, he still had no respect for Ace. The estimate of strength is still low. In fact, after getting along these days, Hawkeye also probably knows Ace's physical strength, which is probably at the level of a lieutenant general. Compared with Ace's age, this is already a very surprising thing. But the knife that Ace slashed has already reached the level of a quasi-general. On the warship where Akainu is. Haha. This kid actually dares to take the initiative. Although the secretary behind Akainu saw the knife slashed by Ace, the momentum was very amazing, but when he thought that the person in front of him was the general of the Navy headquarters, he couldn't help but make a sound. He taunted. Seeing our General Sakaski, he turned his head and ran away. His head was burned by these fires. Shut up. However, the red dog yelled directly, causing the secretary to choke on all the words behind him. Only then did the secretary realize that he must have slapped his hoof on the flattery, so he shrank his neck quickly, not daring to say more. And the reason why Akainu became serious was because he felt the scent of the fire lotus that Ace used in the Navy headquarters square from the sword aura that flew over. Thinking of the terrifying power of the fire lotus, the scar on Akainu's right ear ached. That was a terrible move that ruined the entire headquarters square. But do you think I will stumble on the same trick again? A smirk appeared on Akainu's face. The reason why he was injured the previous time was entirely because he didn't pay enough attention to it, allowing Fire Lotus to get close to his body and explode beside him. Because he was in the center of the explosion, he was able to withstand the greatest force of the explosion, and even his right ear was blown away. This is a disgrace to Akainu, and he will not let this happen again. The explosion range of this move is about 60 meters? Akakan murmured, with an extremely confident expression on his face, and suddenly punched the sword attack towards Ace. The next moment, a crimson magma fist burst out, intercepting Ace's sword energy at an astonishing speed at a distance of 100 meters from the warship. I want you to know that any resistance you have is useless. There was already a smile on Akainu's face. In his opinion, no matter how powerful this move is, and how far away it is from him, how can it affect him? Boom boom boom. In the next second, the flaming saber energy really exploded, but Akainu's smile froze on his face. He was shocked to find that the raging fire waves of 4 colors spread outwards at a terrifying speed in an instant, and the distance of 100 meters was not the limit of this explosion at all. Almost at the same time as the explosion, the fire wave had already swept over a distance of 100 meters, instantly swallowing the warship where Akainu was located. At the beginning, there was only one kind of different fire, the 2-color Buddha's anger lotus, which could cover more than half of the square, blasting a huge pit tens of meters deep in that square. Not to mention that Ace used 4 colors this time. There are 3 different fires mixed in it. Akainu judged the power of Ace's move based on the old yellow calendar a few weeks ago, so he must have to swallow the bitter fruit now. In the flames, the solid hull of the warship made of iron and wood cracked continuously under the high temperature. First it shattered into countless pieces of wood, and the next moment it was directly burned into ashes by the flames. The strong warships were all reduced to ashes, not to mention the frail sailors on the warships. These Red Dog's personal guards, before they could even make a scream, turned into balls of coke in the flames of the explosion, and finally turned into powder and fell below the surface of the sea. Akainu felt this terrible high temperature again, watching his elite subordinates all die in front of his eyes. Akainu's eyes were tearing apart. Ah! Akainu roared out with resentment on his face. He just said that he would not suffer in the same place, but Ace slapped him in the face severely. Now the warship under his feet has disappeared completely, and the fire wave of the explosion is on him again. Several horrific burn marks were left on his body. Open it for me. While roaring, Akainu finally used all his strength, and his whole body turned into crimson magma, wrapped in a powerful general-level arrogance, and suddenly exploded, finally blowing away the remaining waves of fire around him. The aftermath of the knife explosion finally disappeared. A large amount of seawater in this sea area was evaporated by the flames, and the sea level seemed to drop a few centimeters. Huge sea vortex. Hoo! The cracked magma recondensed into a human form, and Akainu gasped for breath twice. The elegant red suit is now in dilapidated condition, and the blood is constantly flowing out of his body. I hate it. Akainu looked at Ace on the beach from a distance, and couldn't help but roared up to the sky. Twice, he has suffered 2 big losses under this Ace. Obviously just a 12-year-old bastard. Obviously, he should be able to squeeze Ace into ashes with a pinch. Why? Why is he so embarrassed every time? I want you to die. Akainu's upturned head suddenly lowered, staring at Ace, and then his feet turned into two balls of magma and sprayed out. The extreme speed produced a sonic boom, as if he could rush to Ace in the next second. In front of him, Ace was leaning on Devil Demon. With one hand at this time, his body was trembling, as if he would fall down at any time. Using the slash of 4-color flames was already his current limit, and after swinging the big knife in his hand, he felt even more. A little bit of exhaustion has arrived. Seeing the rapidly approaching red dog, Ace smiled wryly. He still only had one blow against the general. But he is not alone now. Ace smiled, turned his head to look at Hawkeye, and said, "Your Excellency Mahawk, it seems that I need your help." Hawkeye didn't answer directly, but just nodded towards Ace, but his expression already revealed the meaning of being equal to Ace. At only 12 years old, he can display the strength of a quasi-general. This level of potential deserves to be treated equally by Hawkeye. With a calm face, he took out the sharp cross-cut black knife behind him. Hawkeye paced slowly, and stood in front of Ace, looking at the galloping red dog. A scornful smile appeared on the corner of Hawkeye's mouth. Bearing the title of world's #1 swordsman on his back, he couldn't be compared to a teenage guy. Yi crossed the air soundlessly, and uttered a joyous sword cry in Hawkeye's hands. This was the first time that Hawkeye and Yi fought side by side, but the two seemed to have merged into one body long ago, exuding a kind of strange beauty. Hum. The moment Hawkeye swung his knife, the whole beach seemed to enter a silent space, and only a hum could be heard. Immediately afterwards, Ace couldn't help but widen his eyes, and finally saw Hawkeye's true strength with his own eyes. In front of Yi's blade, a cyan sword energy connected the sky and the earth, and dense black gaps appeared around it, which meant that the space was directly cut, as if to split the whole sea in half, and suddenly moved towards the Red Sea. The dog passed by. And the red dog facing Ace and the others was staring at Ace, but suddenly found a somewhat familiar swordsman, holding a huge black knife, and raised his foot in front of Ace. Although looking familiar at each other, Akainu wanted to kill Ace at the moment, so he didn't think about it at all, just thinking about killing the two together. But when the swordsman locked a pair of falcon-like golden eyes on the red dog, he was suddenly terrified. I actually felt a bit unavoidable. How can it be? He's a real admiral. When the other party swung the terrifying sword energy that seemed to connect heaven and earth, a terrifying name suddenly appeared in Akainu's mind. Hawkeye. Mahawk. The moment this name appeared, Akainu wanted to dodge the opponent's sword aura, but he was horrified to find that the space around him seemed to be frozen under that sword aura. In the end, before the sword energy reached his body, he could only forcefully tilt his body to the right, watching helplessly as the saber energy passed by the base of his right leg. Puff. Blood rained down from the sky, mixed with the minced meat of Akainu's right leg that was twisted into pieces by the sword energy. Ace watched from afar, and couldn't help swallowing. Only then did he realize that the strength that Hawkeye showed in the battle on the top in the previous life anime was not his real strength at all. He should have no strength at all. I thought about doing my best for the Navy. Severely wounded the Admiral of the Navy headquarters with one blow. This is the strongest blow of Hawkeye, the world's #1 swordsman. Why? Why? The severe pain from his right leg made Akainu sweat all over from the pain, but the shame that Ace brought him made him want to slam his head to death. For the first time, he was beaten up by Garp behind Ace and lost his right ear. The second time, his right leg was cut off by this Mahawk who suddenly appeared. He didn't understand why these strong men would always appear around this Ace for no reason. Akainu was covered in magma, still retaining the strength of the Admiral of the Navy headquarters, but at this moment, he no longer dared to fly towards Ace. After the grief and indignation, he flew away from the capital of 7 waters with scars all over his body. He came over aggressively, but all his subordinates were wiped out. Dragging a broken leg, Akainu fled here at a faster speed in embarrassment. Hawkeye held Yi upside down, and was about to chase after him, but was stopped by Ace who had recovered a little bit. Ace's tone was calm, but with a hint of firmness. Stop chasing him. Next time, I will kill him with my own hands. After Hawkeye heard Ace's words, a hint of admiration flashed in the depths of his eyes, and he quietly put Yi back behind him again. If Ace wants to rely on him to deal with his enemies like this, Hawkeye may never have anything to do with him again after helping Ace take 3 shots. But the determination shown by Ace now, the desire to solve the enemy with his own hands, caused an idea to pop up in Hawkeye's mind. Or, just stay with this kid for a while longer, and see how far he can go in this age of great pirates with the rise of all powers? Hawkeye's scorching gaze made Ace look a little puzzled, but he didn't think much about it, and he didn't expect that Hawkeye's attitude towards him now had changed a lot unconsciously. Your Excellency Mahawk, thank you for your shot. Although there was an agreement between the two, Ace understood the severity, and the target of this shot was the Admiral of the Navy headquarters. No matter how rampant the pirates are in this era of great pirates, the Navy is still the most powerful sea force in the world, so although Mahawk agreed to help Ace take 3 shots, if the target of the shot is the Navy, even if he just chose to stand by and watch, no one would say anything about him. But Hawkeye made the move without hesitation, and severely injured Akainu as soon as he made the move, putting himself on the opposite side of the Navy. So Ace couldn't help but thank him. You don't have to be like this, I will definitely do what I said. Hawkeye frowned slightly, as if feeling a little displeased with Ace's thanks, and walked towards the studio first. Just when Ace thought that Hawkeye would walk away without looking back, Hawkeye's footsteps suddenly paused, and a faint voice came over. Let's go back to have dinner, take Luffy with us, we should go. After speaking, Hawkeye raised his foot and continued to walk forward, and after Ace finished listening, an imperceptible smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Unknowingly, has Hawkeye developed a sense of belonging? Sighing secretly, Ace was in an extremely comfortable mood, and hurried 2 steps, walked side by side with Hawkeye, and walked back to the original Tom's studio. At this time, a pirate ship was slowly sailing towards the capital of 7 Waters. The bow of the pirate ship was very unique, it was a crocodile with a banana on its head. In a meeting room of the pirate ship, a big man was wearing an orange plaid suit, a dark black cloak, and a scrupulously combed back hair. The cigar in his mouth was constantly emitting smoke. Society. President. Miss Valentine's Day knelt on one side, her face was full of horror, she still couldn't escape in the end, but she never expected that it was the president himself who came to arrest her. The president of the Baroque Work Club has been hiding behind the scenes under the code name of Mr. Zero. This is the first time she has seen the president, but looking at the golden hook on the left hand of the president, Miss Valentine's Day would rather he never entered this room. Woo. The president in front of him took a puff of the cigar forcefully, and exhaled a big puff of smoke. The smoke was lingering, but instead highlighted a scar that spanned his entire face from left to right. If that Ace asked you to bring it, you can repeat it to me again. The president's voice was low, with an inexplicable majesty, which immediately made Miss Valentine's Day break into a cold sweat. He said that he would come to you to settle the score himself. Miss Valentine's Day trembled, her head buried deeply, and she didn't dare to look up at the president. The room fell into an eerie silence. The president was smoking a cigar, his eyes narrowed slightly, as if he was thinking about something. And this kind of environment made Miss Valentine's Day even more terrified, afraid that she would die at the hands of this cruel man in front of her in the next moment. That's right. As a senior bounty hunter, Miss Valentine has recognized her true identity as the president. Suddenly, the president, who had been silent all this time, frowned, exhaled a puff of smoke, and suddenly asked, You already know who I am? No. I don't even know your identity. Miss Valentine's Day is trembling. This man has been hiding behind the scenes of the work agency. He obviously doesn't want to reveal his true identity. Now if he knows that he has guessed his name, how can he still have a chance to live? The president took another sip of the cigar and said calmly, Let's go. Miss Valentine's Day raised her head suddenly, with surprise on her face, she stood up quickly and rushed out of the room. While running, she was still rejoicing that the legendary and brutal sand crocodile was unexpectedly very easy to talk to. In an instant, she had already rushed to the door of the room, opened the door, looked at the endless sea outside the ship, with a smile on her face that survived the catastrophe. As long as she rushed out of the room, she could ride the sea breeze and escape from this place far away. Ship. Puff. The golden hook pierced Miss Valentine's Day's body, her smile froze on her face, and then the water in her body quickly drained, her delicate face shrank rapidly, and finally turned into a mummy. Before dying, Miss Valentine's Day saw the golden sand passing by her side, and the bows that floated to the deck were stacked together, forming the body of the sand crocodile again. With a plop, Miss Valentine's body fell onto the deck. But none of this moved Crocodile at the bow. The sea breeze blew the cloak on his body, and the ash from the cigar shook off. Crocodile grinned. Ace? Interesting. Mary Joa, World Government Headquarters. The curly-haired old man among the 5 old stars put down the phone in his hand with a serious face, and after a moment of silence, he said, The Red Dog is defeated. The curly-haired old man's words made the faces of the other 5 old stars extremely gloomy at the same time, and the old swordsman said, "Is it Ace? If it's really this kid, it's too scary. He can defeat the admiral at only 12 years old? No, it's Joracle Mahawk." Dangerous coldness flickered in the eyes of the curly-haired old man, and he couldn't figure out why the world's #1 swordsman would get involved with Ace. Several 5 old stars breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that Ace is not so perverted. It's just that they didn't know that Akainu concealed the fact that Ace smashed a warship with a knife for his own face. If they knew, I'm afraid they would have to rejudge Ace's threat. After hearing Hawkeye's name, the old swordsman's pupils shrank. No wonder the red dog lost a leg there. The man's swordsmanship strength, even he had to take it seriously. If Hawkeye stays by Ace's side all the time and is determined to protect him, there's not much we can do unless we take action. The tallest Wu Laoxing frowned slightly. No. The old swordsman said with certainty. I have seen that Hawkeye, that guy is very proud. It is impossible to be willing to be the bodyguard of a kid forever. The biggest possibility is that he owes Ace that kid is human. In that case, Hawkeye should just stay by Ace's side temporarily. The curly-haired old man looked thoughtful. It's just that as long as Hawkeye is around for a day, we can't do much. After all, the recent new world, it's not very peaceful there either. Neither the green pheasant nor the yellow ape can leave. The high-end combat power we have available is still too little. The bearded Wu Laoxing also said. It seems that the Kiwahei plan must be accelerated. All the 5 old stars nodded slightly in agreement, and selected 7 powerful pirates, using their reputation to frighten the novice pirates in the first half of the Great Route. In this way, the Navy can free up more power to deal with those guys who are about to make waves in the new world. Although we don't have the extra strength to bypass Hawkeye to deal with Ace, we still can't let him go so easily. The curly-haired old man's eyes flickered coldly. Let the Navy increase Ace's bounty for me again. Under the heavy reward, someone must be tempted. Don't underestimate the people of the world. In every corner of this world, there are still many powerful people hidden. Ace didn't know at this moment, because of the conversation of Wu Laoxing, his bounty in the Navy has become 500 million. Ace and his party of 4 or 3 people and a skeleton have now left the capital of 7 waters on the ship of the Scorpion pirates. Originally, Ace wanted to drive a warship directly, but Hawkeye turned black and split one of the warships in half. Ace's forehead was dripping with cold sweat, and then he realized that it was Hawkeye who drove the boat for the 3 of them. Driving a ship has nothing to do with strength. How could Hawkeye alone be able to drive a warship that requires dozens of people to operate? So Ace couldn't care less about his distress, and scratched his head embarrassingly, and finally chose a smaller pirate ship, and those warships were not wasted. Ace simply chopped them into wood with a few knives, and gave them to Iceberg as pawn-free materials too. Uncle Mahawk, you've worked hard, I'll give you some fruit. Luffy walked up to Hawkeye who was at the helm, raised his head innocently, and handed him a bright red apple. Hawkeye, who was originally forced to take the helm, had a depressed face, but after taking the apple, his face looked a little better. I am liking this Shaolufe more and more. Hawkeye reached out and rubbed Luffy's head, and said with a smile, thank you, Luffy. You're welcome. Luffy raised his head, smiled cutely, and looked very polite. On the side near the cabin, Ace and Brook looked at Luffy and Hawkeye strangely. Ahem, Brook. Do you think I should tell Hawkeye that Luffy is actually a carnivore? He just doesn't want to eat fruit. Ace coughed twice, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Yo ho ho. Brook tried to hold back his laughter, and replied, forget it. I see that Mr. Mahawk and Luffy are getting along very happily, so don't bother them. Click. Click. Suddenly, the sound of chewing food came to Ace's ears, and Ace turned his head to look in the direction of the kitchen, his smile gradually shrinking. Did someone sneak into the boat without paying attention? It's really embarrassing. As if sensing Ace's killing intent, the sound of chewing in the kitchen stopped. After a while, the door was pushed open a small crack, and then an ant-sized creature crept out, heading towards the side of the pirate ship. Run over the side of the ship. Ace's informative color, domineering, swept across the kitchen. His face turned black all of a sudden, and most of the cans in the kitchen had been wiped out. None of the 4 of them knew how to cook, so they could rely on these canned food for their livelihood at sea, and now someone stole the canned food. Can't stand it. Thinking of this, Ace didn't hesitate anymore, and didn't watch him move. His body suddenly disappeared in place, and he got close to the creature in an instant. Just wave and grab. Without the slightest surprise, he grabbed the creature into his palm. Want to run? Ah! From Ace's palm, a woman's panicked scream suddenly came out. This made Ace's face suddenly change, and his expression gradually became a little stiff. The touch in the palm of your hand. Soft. Rogue. The voice also seemed very soft and cute, but at the moment it was crying. Ace was a little embarrassed, and the killing intent emanating from his body also receded like a tide. He opened his palm slightly, and looked down into the palm of his hand. I saw a fingertip-sized girl lying sideways in Ace's palm, with green hair and dark skin, but an unusually hot figure, exuding the healthy vitality of a girl all over her body. However, at this time, the girl was holding her chest with her hands, with tears on her face, ready to cry. Are there really Lilliputians? Brooke also came over at this time, with a shocked expression on his face. My eyes are about to pop out of fear. Although I don't have eyes. Yo ho ho. Ace ignored Brooke's sneer, and looked at the girl in the palm, with some doubts in his eyes. He always felt that the other party looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it for a while. Let go of me. Otherwise I'll be impolite. The green-haired girl wiped her tears, picked up a fork-shaped weapon beside her, pouted her mouth, and scolded softly, I'm very powerful, After Ace saw the girl pick up the fork, he froze for a moment, and finally remembered who the girl was. Lily Ernst Mark, the mini-fruit ability. Where is this little people? Ace raised his hand and brought the girl closer to his eyes. After a careful look, he was even more sure of his judgment. She's a giant. After hearing Ace's words, Brooke was taken aback, and asked worriedly, Captain, do you not have a fever? You said this little ant-like thing is a giant family? Ace rolled his eyes, and said to himself, you, a skeleton, can run around alive, what else is impossible? But even though he complained in his heart, Ace still explained, this is the reason for the devil fruit. But maybe it was because Ace got too close, or maybe it was because Ace accidentally ate Lily's tofu before. Lily yelled with a pretty face flushed, mini fruit, maximum recovery. Now there is no need for Ace to explain to Brooke. Under his shocked gaze, Lily, who was originally only a few millimeters in size, swelled in the wind. In an instant, Ace's hand could no longer hold her. After Lily landed on the deck, she turned into a giant tens of meters tall in a short while. The eyes of Hawkeye and Luffy were also attracted at this time. Wow. Luffy gave Hawkeye all the fruit, stuffing the secretly left meat in his mouth. Now looking at the enlarged Lily with excitement, it's amazing, it's grown so big. Humph. Lily, who had regained her original body shape, was obviously full of confidence in her own strength. But there was a faint tingling feeling in her chest from being touched by Ace just now, which made Lily's cheeks flush with shame and anger. She has never had this kind of contact with the opposite sex. So she looked at Ace at her feet, raised the huge fork in her hand, and stabbed it without hesitation with a trace of shame. The tip of the huge fork shone with a dazzling cold light. In the process of stabbing Ace, a gust of wind was set off out of thin air. It seems that even if the giants are ordinary women, their power should not be underestimated. But Ace seemed to be frightened when faced with the giant fork falling from the sky, and he had no intention of avoiding it at all, and Brooke, Hawkeye and the others had no intention of taking action at all. At this moment, seeing that Ace seemed to have no power to resist, Lily was shocked. She just wanted to teach this Ace a lesson on impulse just because she was taken advantage of. And from what the skeleton said, Ace in front of him should be the captain of this pirate ship. It's so weak that you can't even react. Seeing that her fork was about to hit Ace's body, Lily now regretted it, and even forgot about being frivolous by Ace. She wanted to stop her attack, but because she used too much force at the beginning, she couldn't stop it now. Lily couldn't bear to see Ace being smashed into a pulp by herself, and the moment before the fork pierced Ace's body, her eyes suddenly closed. Boom. Lily felt the fork in her hand shake violently. Obviously she had hit the target. Her body trembled in fright, she screamed, and she kept muttering, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Brooke was speechless for a while, and slandered, if you dare not kill, then don't do it. Why did you go there in the first place? The next moment, Lily suddenly felt the fork in her hand being pulled out, and the child's voice came out. Hey. Hey. Woo. Lily didn't dare to open her eyes at all, and even cried out in fright, Ghost. I'm sorry, I don't dare to be here anymore. Dad, I want to go home. I'm not dead. With a black face, Ace pulled the fork out of Lily's hand, jumped up, gave her a shudder, and said, Don't cry, I'm sorry it's useful if so. Why do you need the police? Lily sobbed, and cautiously opened one eye. When she saw that Ace was still standing in front of her, the crying stopped. You were really not a ghost? What are you talking about? Ace was furious. It was obvious that this girl broke into the boat, stole their rations, and even attacked him. Why did she act like she was bullied in the end? I'm not dead. Ace emphasized again, then squinted his eyes and said, say it. You ate all our cans. How are you going to make up for it? In this short 10 minutes, Lily's mood went up and down, and she was completely confused, so after hearing Ace's words, she could only say weakly, my father and I got separated. I can't help but eat your canned food. What do you want to do? Ace's eyes moved, and he thought quickly in his heart, Lily's father is the giant chef who can cook heavenly dishes. The father is so powerful, his daughter must also be a master of cooking. Thinking of this, Ace's eyes flashed brightly, and he said firmly, I want you. Huh? Brooke exclaimed, Captain, you're just a child. Lily also screamed, hugging her chest in fear, as if remembering the feeling of being in Ace's palm just now, her cheeks were flushed. Ace's face darkened. I bother, God is just a child. Do I really mean that? I mean, I want you to be my partner and the chef of our Entei pirates. Ace gritted his teeth and explained, this way we don't have to eat canned food all the time. Huh. Lily knew that she had misunderstood Ace, and was a little embarrassed, but after hearing Ace's words, her eyes lit up, and she became excited instead. I can cook. Then I will join you. Lily's words made Ace suddenly have an ominous premonition, and his face became a little stiff, but Ace didn't have the habit of saying nothing, so he could only nod. Thank you. My dad never let me cook. Lily, who just got Ace's consent, turned into a 30 centimeters shape in a whiz, and then got into the kitchen as if she couldn't wait. Gudong. Brooke swallowed, turned to Ace and said, Captain, I don't know why, I'm a little scared. What is Brooke afraid of? Luffy asked innocently, full of expectation. After I have a chef, will I be able to eat delicious meals every day? Yarn. The corner of Ace's mouth twitched wildly, restraining his desire to rush into the kitchen. The situation is very wrong at first glance. Okay. Didn't even look at Lily's own father, wouldn't she be allowed to cook? Just when Ace was about to speak, his face suddenly changed. I'm going, not so fast. As soon as the voice fell, a burst of thick black smoke rose from the kitchen of the cabin, and almost at the same time, the entire kitchen was directly lifted into the sky with a huge roar. The four of Ace, including Hawkeye, couldn't help opening their mouths. It's not that they don't have enough concentration, it's really too fast, right? It's been less than a minute since I entered, and the kitchen was blown up. Are you sure? You want to find this girl to be our ship's cook? Hawkeye's eyelids twitched at this moment. Although he usually behaves very coldly, if he can eat something good while sailing, he will refuse. But what the hell is this? A chef who can blow up the kitchen in an instant, what the hell can he make? After the explosion this time, the remaining cans and ingredients are probably all ruined. Cough, cough, cough. In the ruins after the explosion, Lily's face was black and ashes, and she staggered out of the ruins after pushing away the debris. After walking in front of Ace, she tapped her 2 index fingers on her chest, with an aggrieved face. He said, yes. I'm sorry. It's useless to always say I'm sorry. The police are very busy. Ace wanted to yell out, but in the end he didn't say it. The partner he recruited, no matter how tricky he is, he has to endure it. I can try again, and I will definitely not do it next time, Lily said expectantly. Do not. With one voice, Ace and the others have never been so tacit. Oh. Lily became more and more wronged, took her fork, and secretly went to draw circles. Seeing Lily being so wronged, Ace was too embarrassed to criticize too much, so after sighing, he changed the subject and said, Lily, where is your father? Huh? Lily seemed to remember that she still has a father, and immediately became anxious. By the way, I have to find my father quickly, or my father will be worried. Ace doesn't know what to say now. This girl is not small. Why is she a natural fool? It took Lily more than 10 minutes to tell her experience of the past half a month. It turned out that after the girl and her father Pan's Fry entered the Great Route, they robbed the government, navy and pirates of food, to cook for those hungry civilians. This journey has helped many poor people, but it has also increased their bounties. A few days ago, Lily's father, Pan's Fry, had a bounty as high as 100 million Baileys. Navy and bounty hunters are constantly coming to hunt them down. If it is an upright method, it will be fine, but half a month ago, as soon as they left Alabasta, some bounty hunters took advantage of their sleep and directly used the bomb destroyed their pirate ship. After the explosion, Fortunately, there was a good glass bottle next to Lily, so she quickly got in and avoided being drowned in seawater. But since then, she has been completely separated from her father. After floating in the sea for half a month, she had nothing to eat or drink. If it wasn't for Lily's ability to use miniature fruits, she would be able to reduce consumption after shrinking, then she wouldn't be alive now. Captain Ace, can you take me to Alabasta? My dad may still be there. Lily looked at Ace beggingly with her big watery eyes. Lily's father is a volcanic chef who can make heavenly cuisine, and he is a kind giant in his bones, so even if Lily didn't ask, Ace would have rescued him. But just when Ace was about to agree to Lily, suddenly a few golden grains of sand floated around them on the sea breeze. Ace frowned. A trace of doubt arose in his heart. How could there be sand on this endless sea? Brother, I got sand in my eyes. Luffy's voice came over, and Ace looked down, and saw Luffy rubbing his eyes with his hands. Tears were about to flow out. Don't move. As soon as Ace spoke, Luffy stopped obediently, trying hard to endure the discomfort in his eyes. Ace felt a little distressed, and quickly reached out to hug Luffy, gently opened his eyelids, and gently blew the sand out of Luffy's eyes. The eagle eye on one side was slightly moved when he saw the warm scene of the two brothers. You must know that he had also seen the coldness of Ace when facing the enemy. What a full-bodied person. Ace didn't know what Hawkeye was thinking, but he saw more and more grains of sand around him, and he already thought of a person's name. The power of the sand. Ace stared at the direction the sand was coming from, narrowing his eyes slightly. Crocodile? At this time, a pirate ship that was twice the size of their ship was approaching quickly on the waves, and on the bow of the ship, a tall figure with a cigar in his mouth stood tall. Then, the black cloak behind him is blowing with the wind. Looking at this man, Ace completely confirmed the identity of the other party, but facing the enemy, Ace showed a smile on his face instead. I'm worrying about having nothing to eat. Someone is here to bring us rations. Lily blushed when she heard Ace's words. She ate all of Ace's rations. But when she saw the man standing at the bow of the ship opposite, Lily's face suddenly showed a look of fear, and she jumped on Ace's shoulder anxiously. Captain Ace, let's run away. That man is Crocodile, a great pirate with a bounty of 81 million Baileys. But after she finished speaking, not only Ace remained indifferent, but even the expressions of the other people on board did not change at all. Thinking that her words were not understood by Ace and the others, Lily's anxious face flushed red. She tugged at Ace's hat and said, My father once told me that even if he saw Crocodile, he would definitely run away, because this man is a terrifying natural ability user. My dad's bounty is 100 million Baileys, but he also thinks he is no match for Crocodile. Let's run away. Lily thought he had made it very clear, but Ace just stretched out with one finger. She rubbed her little head, and comforted her with a smile. Don't worry, just leave it to me. However, I also have a task for you. After a pause, Ace brought Lily close to his mouth, and whispered a few words. After speaking, Ace took Lily off the hat and gently placed it on the deck. Then Ace also took a few steps forward and walked onto the bow of the ship, naturally exuding a domineering aura, facing Crocodile on the opposite side. And Crocodile also saw Ace's movement, took off the cigar with his right hand, flicked off a few strands of cigarette ash, smiled and exhaled a smoke ring, and shouted in a low voice. Are you Ace? I admire you very much, do my men. That confident posture and the natural arrogance in his tone made Ace's face extremely strange. He never thought that the first thing the other party said was that he wanted to accept him as his subordinate. Seeing that Ace did not speak, Crocodile sighed self-consciously, and continued. You know what? I have been in this sea for many years, and the thing that makes me regret the most is that my subordinates are all a bunch of trash. They are not qualified to conquer this sea with me. So, Ace, your flames, plus my sand. Even if it's a new world, I can take you through it again and make him turn upside down. Crocodile raised the golden hook in his left hand, with a look in his eyes gleaming with madness and hatred. Oh. Ace glanced at him with some contempt. Let me be your subordinate. Just because you, a guy who escaped from the new world in embarrassment. Ace's words made Crocodile's pupils shrink suddenly, and the veins on his forehead were exposed. These words completely hit his sore spot. Back then he broke into the new world with great ambitions, and wanted to become famous all over the world by taking off Whitebeard's head, but he was not only easily defeated by Whitebeard, but even his left hand was cut off during the subsequent voyage. He is a naturalist. Thinking of that person's name, the wound on his severed hand ached again. Joker. Throwing the name out of his mind, Crocodile's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he slowly raised his right hand. Countless sand grains quickly emerged, and a small dust whirlwind formed in his palm in the blink of an eye. "It seems that we can't talk anymore," Crocodile said coldly. "I didn't want to kill you, but now I have changed my mind." As soon as the words fell, the cloak behind him flicked, the pirate ship under his feet trembled, a large amount of sand drilled out of the cabin, and floated above the sea, as if he had completely escaped the gravity of the earth, crazily surrounding Crocodile's spin-up. He has accumulated a lot of sand in his pirate ship to make it easier for him to use his own moves. Sandstorm. Crocodile pointed at Ace and the others with the golden hook in his hand, and the huge sandstorm crossed the sea with an unstoppable momentum and crushed directly towards Ace and the others. The sandstorm covered the sky, completely blocking the sight of Ace and the others, forming a dim yellow sand curtain in front of their pirate ship. The sand crackled and smashed on their pirate ship, the sandstorm rotated extremely fast, and a layer of sawdust was rubbed off the solid pirate ship's surface. The mad sand hit. Ace was completely involved in the sandstorm, and there were countless sands as far as he could see. Ace narrowed his eyes slightly, and the domineering knowledge color had been released. Suddenly, in the sandstorm, a golden hook suddenly protruded from Ace's side and back, shining with a gloomy light, and directly hit Ace's neck fiercely. "Die." Crocodile's voice reached Ace's ears, and at the same time, the golden hook flicked violently, as if a hideous blood hole would be left on Ace's neck in the next moment. But in the next moment, the golden hook seemed to have pierced a layer of hard steel. Crocodile's pupils shrank suddenly, and he suddenly discovered that Ace's neck had already been covered with a layer of jet black domineering, armed color. A single blow could not accomplish meritorious deeds, and Crocodile's body was reformed into countless floating sand grains, and once again merged into the surrounding sandstorm. "I don't believe it, you can defend against all my attacks." Crocodile's voice was gloomy and cold, during which golden hooks continued to protrude from the sandstorm, attacking every vital point of Ace's body from various tricky angles. But every time the golden hook hit Ace, that small piece of skin would always turn into a deep black color, blocking Crocodile's attack. It is the move, reactive armor, created by Ace. Feeling Crocodile's attack several times, Ace raised his eyebrows, and secretly said, "This sand crocodile really relies too much on his fruit ability." After breaking into a new world, he failed to master the two-color arrogance. After sighing, a circle of flames wrapped around Ace's fist. He smiled and whispered to himself, "I don't know why, but my name on the arrest warrant is still Fire Fist Ace. If that's the case, I just let yourself be worthy of this name." Fire Punch. The flame on Ace's fist suddenly spun and expanded, forming a huge flaming fist in an instant, and the next moment, following Ace's punching movement, it slammed into the sandstorm around Ace. Boom. With a huge impact force, the flame fist suddenly blasted a huge gap in the sandstorm. The fire fist continued unabated. After breaking through the sandstorm, it passed by Crocodile's pirate ship and blasted straight into the sea. In the process, waves as high as 10 meters were set off, and the waves pushed the pirate ship away by tens of meters. Although it just passed by, it directly blasted off half of the pirate ship's hull. In addition to the burning flames at the cracks in the hull, if the fire is not extinguished in time, the pirate ship will definitely be completely destroyed. Lose. Quick, put out the fire. Immediately, some pirates grabbed buckets and rushed to the place where the flames were burning, trying to put out the fire quickly. Bucket after bucket of water was poured on the flames, but it was just a drop in the bucket. The flame spread rapidly without any sign of being extinguished. Ace's flames can't be extinguished by ordinary liquid. Puff. At the same time, the sandstorm surrounding Ace also collapsed under this punch. Crocodile spewed out a mouthful of blood, reappeared, and fell to the side of the deck with a gloomy face. Although on the surface of the sea, because there is not enough land for him to desertify, his fruit ability is limited to the weakest point, but he never thought that not only could he not hurt Ace, but he was also punched by Ace god of vomit blood. "How long has it been since I've been hurt?" Crocodile's face was ugly, and he was so gloomy that he seemed to be dripping water. Since he left the new world, no one can hurt him, a natural fruit ability user. But today, he tasted the pain again. Glancing at his dilapidated pirate ship, the flustered looks of the people on board made Crocodile's forehead even more veiled. "It's all trash." However, Crocodile would not just watch his pirate ship burn to the ground. He could only stare at Ace, raised his right hand high, and the sand grains in the air quickly gathered. Desert Sword. The grains of sand gathered into a knife-like weapon 4 to 5 meters long, and with a low shout from Crocodile, it quickly slashed at his own pirate ship. Click. There was a sound of wood being split, and the area ignited by Ace's fire fist was separated from the main body of the pirate ship under the slash of the desert sword. In midair, everything was reduced to ashes. It's very thoughtful. Ace smiled watching Crocodile's actions, and returned the words Crocodile said to him in turn, as Crocodile. I appreciate you very much. Be my subordinate. Crocodile's face turned ashen immediately, and the other party actually returned his words intact and made himself his subordinate? Crocodile has great ambitions. Since he went to sea, he has been running for the identity of One Piece. He wants to have wealth, status, and fame. He wants his name to resound throughout the sea. Even if he entered the New World and suffered a lot from the monsters there, he never forgot his dream. Those guys from the New World, especially the Joker who cut off his left hand, he believed that sooner or later he would step on them himself. But now someone wants to accept him as his subordinate? Crocodile laughed back angrily. His voice seemed to be squeezed out from the depths of his throat, low and hoarse. Very good. I would like to see why you dare to say such a thing. The right hand tore off a layer of cover on the golden hook of the left hand, revealing the silver hook inside. The hook was covered with a layer of purple venom. Once it dripped on the deck, it would corrode a small pit. Ace looked at Crocodile's movements, shook his head in disappointment, and said, You are too dependent on external objects. The improvement of your strength should be based on the improvement of your own body. Humph. Crocodile just snorted coldly, ignored Ace's words at all, and his lower body instantly turned into a whirlwind of sand, pushing him to rush directly towards Ace at an astonishing speed. After arriving at Ace, the hook in his hand turned into phantoms, and at the same time sent dozens of attacks towards Ace. There was a cruel smile on Crocodile's face. Before that, hundreds of people had died under his trick. But facing the silver hook covered in venom, Ace's expression was indifferent, with his hands in his pockets, just moving his feet left and right, and he completely dodged Crocodile's attack like this. Hey, why didn't you listen to what I said? While speaking, the armed color domineeringly covered Ace's fist, and then without thinking about it, Ace's pitch-black fist suddenly slammed in one direction to his side. Crocodile's position is invisible under the arrogance of knowledge color. When the sound of gold and iron clashing came out, and it directly hit the high-speed moving silver hook. Under Crocodile's shocked gaze, the powerful force twisted the hard hook. This golden hook was made by Crocodile, who collected precious metals and asked people to carefully refine it. Unexpectedly, it looked like it was made of mud in Ace's hands. After Ace's fist blasted Crocodile's hook, the speed of the bombardment did not slow down at all, and even punched Crocodile's body. Boom. Crocodile's face suddenly changed drastically. In the past, natural fruits could ignore physical attacks, but now they didn't work at all. Intense pain surged into Crocodile's mind in an instant, and he suddenly scattered into a piece of sand, trying his best to reduce the damage of Ace's punch to him. But after he regained his human form, he was still wounded in his internal organs by this punch, and spit out a mouthful of blood. Crocodile's eyelids twitched wildly at this time. He had already realized that Ace in front of him was even stronger than himself. At the same time, he had to start thinking about the correctness of Ace's words. Could it be that I have been relying on the fruit ability? Am I really wrong? But the pain from his chest told Crocodile that now was not the time to think about these things. His body quickly turned into sand, and he flew back to his pirate ship without looking back. Sail the boat. Let's go. Crocodile's order woke up the pirates on the ship, and ran to their posts in a panic, trying to control the pirate ship to move forward. Hey, if you don't want to join our pirate group, I can't just let you go. The corner of Ace's mouth tilted up, and he had already taken out the devil. Looking at Crocodile from a distance, faintly already firelight was released from his body. But at the moment Ace was about to make a move, he suddenly frowned, and suddenly established a connection with 10 strangers in his mind. This change was very sudden, and the information sent was very complicated, so Ace could only let go. Zumo. Sort out your thoughts. After thinking about it, Ace understood who these 10 people were. Originally, in Ace's mind, because of the relationship between the Blue Lotus Seed and the Ground Fire Lotus Seed, there was only a slight connection with Willy. And the 10 people who suddenly appeared should be the Yanwei that Willy helped him form. Good job, Willy. Ace smiled, regained his senses, and looked across. But at this time, Crocodile's pirate ship has gradually gone away. Captain, do you just let him go like this? Brooke approached with some worry. Ace shrugged indifferently. It would be good if he could just keep Crocodile, but even if he failed to keep him this time, Ace had already achieved his goal. He has already planted a seed in Crocodile's heart, and it will take root and sprout when we meet next time. Moreover, I did not suffer this time. Ace looked around with a smile, and then called out, Lily, how's your job going? Mission successfully completed. Lily yelled excitedly, and then Hawkeye and the others saw with weird faces that a large amount of supplies appeared out of nowhere on the seemingly empty deck, and even filled most of the deck. Food, drink, and even a pile of treasure. Wow. Luffy threw himself on the pile of supplies excitedly, a lot of meat. Ace has always had a smile on his face, and now that he sees the treasures all over the floor, his mood is even better. After seeing that Lily can shrink clothes and weapons, he judged that Lily can use his own ability to shrink items other than himself. So before the battle, he told Lily to secretly go to Crocodile's pirate ship, shrink Crocodile's supplies, and then roll them all over. Captain Ace, everything is here. Lily walked up to Ace and said proudly with a small grin, there is nothing left. Cough cough cough. Hearing this, Ace couldn't help coughing out. He really didn't expect Lily to be so powerful, and even took the things on the pirate ship in one pot. Sailing on the vast sea, if there is not enough supplies, then there is no need to think about how miserable the result will be. Ace has a little sympathy for Crocodile now. At this time, Crocodile's pirate ship was on board. A group of pirates collapsed tiredly on the deck. After fleeing dozens of miles away, they dared to take a break and chat in a low voice with a slightly frightened tone. Our captain actually lost. A pirate's lips trembled slightly. He's a sand crocodile with a reward of 81 million Baileys. That's right. On this great voyage, we have never met an opponent. The captain's battles are all destructive, but no one can hurt the captain. Another pirate glanced at the pale K. Rockdale couldn't help swallowing. Crocodile stood at the bow, with blood still hanging from the corner of his mouth, and the pain from his chest told him that his injury this time was not serious. Taking a deep puff of the cigar, relying on nicotine to relieve some of the pain in his body, Crocodile clenched his fists, his pupils contracted, and Ace's voice kept echoing in his mind. Let me join his pirate group. Crocodile's eyes flickered, HMPH. How is it possible? But that kid should be in his early 10 years old, right? Why do you already have such a strong strength? He must have a secret method to quickly improve his strength. I can pretend to join his subordinates first, and cheat this method first, then I will have stronger strength, and it is up to me to decide whether to stay or not. Crocodile was thinking quickly about the possibility of this choice, when suddenly a pirate ran out of the cabin in a panic, and fell on the deck because he was walking too fast. Crocodile frowned, hating his useless subordinates more and more. Captain, no. It's not good. All our supplies are gone. The pirate knelt on the ground and climbed to Crocodile's side. His face was already full of despair. On the endless sea, if there is no supplies, they will die. What? Crocodile's face turned black to the extreme, and he said through gritted teeth, you mean, someone stole all our supplies under our noses? Are you kidding me? That's a whole warehouse full of things. Although the pirate was very scared, he didn't dare to deceive Crocodile, so he could only bite the bullet and say, yes. Yes. Hearing his subordinate's answer, Crocodile's breathing was obviously a bit rough, and he didn't doubt his subordinate's words, because a name had already appeared in his mind. Crocodile suppressed his anger, his voice almost squeezed out from between his teeth. Ace. Puff, in grief and anger, Crocodile spat out another mouthful of blood. He has always claimed to be extremely intelligent, because he is not only a notorious big pirate, but also secretly the boss behind the bounty hunter organization, Baroque Works. But today, not only was he defeated by Ace in the battle, even Crocodile, the so-called smart man, was no longer so confident. After all, if he was really that smart, how could Ace have the opportunity to play with him again and sweep away all the supplies on the ship? Crocodile's eyes were red, and he suffered 2 consecutive losses from Ace, which not only made him doubt himself, but also made him prepare to take revenge on Ace with all his might. Originally, in Crocodile's plan, he would always hide his identity, secretly develop the Baroque Work Society, use this organization to absorb the strong, and finally find Alabasta's Pluto. But now he doesn't care about these things at all. He is going to launch the Baroque Work Club, drive out all the warships, and completely kill Ace in Alabasta. No matter how strong Ace is, he doesn't believe that the gunfire of dozens of warships can't sink his wrecked ship. Are you a devil fruit user too? Crocodile said to himself with a cold tone, I don't believe you can survive after falling into the sea. Go. To Alabasta. At this moment, Ace is holding the phone bug, talking to Willy with a smile. Lord Ace, the formation of the Yanwei has been completed. Willy said resoundingly, now we have also left the North Sea and officially entered the Great Route. Haha, good job. Ace was in a good mood. Also, don't call me an adult, just call me the captain from now on. Yes, Captain. Willie's answer made Ace even more satisfied. With Willie's efforts, now that Yanwei is in place, his Yandi pirates finally deserve their name. The strength of Yanwei is closely related to Ace, and Ace's current physical strength has reached the level of an ordinary lieutenant general. In other words, Willie's physical strength is the same as Ace's, at the level of an ordinary lieutenant general, while the remaining 10 ordinary Yanwei are half of the ordinary lieutenant general. But Yanwei can use different fires, so even ordinary Yanwei can already fight against the lieutenant general now. We've reached the Twin Straits now, but the Kulokas you mentioned is indeed a bit difficult. Willie said. He is with a huge island whale, and he always tries to drive us away. Ace was speechless for a while, and he didn't expect that Kulokas's temper was even weirder than in the comics. Ask Kurokas, do you still know Brook from the Rumba Pirates? Okay. Willie responded, and the phone fell silent for a while. Not long after, an old man's urgent voice came. Are you Brook? Where have you been all these years? How long has Rab been waiting for you, do you know? Uncle Kulokas, don't get excited, I'm not Brook, Ace said helplessly. Kulokas hesitated at first, then seemed to think that Ace was playing with him, and there was already a hint of displeasure in his tone. Who is your uncle? Also, since you are not Brook, what do you mean by that name? First of all, although I don't want to admit it, Roger is indeed my father. You extended his life for 1 year so that he can realize his dream, so I should call you uncle. Although Roger did not fulfill his responsibilities as a father for the sake of his so-called dream, which made Ace feel a little bit resentful towards him, but Ace's mentality has changed a little in 2 lifetimes, at least he will no longer deny the relationship with Roger. Blood relation. You. Daughter Captain Roger's son, Kurokas said with a hint of shock in his tone, but at the same time he couldn't believe it. He didn't expect that Captain Roger had a son. Yes, my name is Portgas D. Ace, you can call me Ace. Ace didn't continue to prove his identity after saying this, because he didn't care about these things. Also, Rumba the pirate group has disappeared on the Great Route. Hearing Ace's words, there was a moment of silence on the other side. Apparently Kulokas understood the meaning of disappear. The Rumba pirates will never return to the Twin Straits. Rab. Kulokas's voice was full of sadness. Is Rab's waiting doomed to be fruitless? But Brook is still alive in a sense. Ace's words revived Kuloka's hope. Forgive me for not letting him talk to you now, because I'm afraid he won't be able to control his emotions. It should be. It should be. Kulokas's tone now is completely free of rustiness, full of gratitude to Ace. I will take Brook back to the Twin Straits soon, and during this period, my partners will trouble you. Ace added. In addition, Luo is a person with the ability of the fruit of surgery, and he is also an excellent surgeon. Doctor, he can cooperate with you to treat Rab better. Hopefully by the time Brook and I get there, Rab will be a healthy and lively whale again. Ace said with a smile on his face. The smile on Kulokas's face was even bigger. As the ship doctor of the Roger Pirates, he had of course heard of the name of the fruit of the operation. With this magical ability, the Luo that Ace mentioned is definitely a top doctor. Now his affection for Ace has reached an unprecedented level. Okay. They can stay as long as they want. Listen to your nephew. The corner of Ace's mouth twitched. His old uncle changed his face very quickly. He had a bad face just now he changed his name to nephew. Next, Ace stopped chatting with Kukaros, and asked him to pass the phone bug to Luo, explaining Luo's future training plan, and asked him to cooperate with Kukaros to treat Rab. Willie, on the other hand, followed Ace's order and headed straight for Alabasta with the newly formed Yanwei. Ace's next destination is there, not only to find Lily's father there, but also to collect the historical text of Alabasta, and take a look at what the ancient weapon Pluto looks like there. 3 days have passed in the blink of an eye. The morning sun shone on the sea, and a pirate ship slowly moved forward with the waves. At this moment, Ace is leading Luffy to exercise crazily. There are 2 figures, one big and one small. The muscle lines all over the body are clearly visible, and the sweat is dripping from the surface of the muscles. Yo ho 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 ho. Brook came out of the cabin with his violin in hand, and saw the 2 people bathed in sweat, with an envious expression on his face. The captain is really hard-working. Ace's training of body muscles is destined to be missed by Brook. Didn't he see that Brook's body is full of bones? Get up, Brook. Ace stretched his body and made a crackling sound like fried beans. Yes. Want me to play you a good morning song? Brook grinned and put the bow on the violin. Stop. Ace stopped Brook with cold sweat on his forehead. He knew how powerful this so-called good morning song was. That song is indeed refreshing, but no matter how harsh it is, it will be as bad as it sounds. Ace has no masochistic tendencies. Brooke, let's talk about you. Ace asked. What do you think of the fruit of the underworld you ate? Brooke put away the violin, and he understood that Ace wanted to point him out. Well, this fruit, apart from resurrecting me once, I haven't felt any other functions of it for the time being. Then let me ask another question. Eston asked after a pause. Do you still remember how you came back from the underworld? Brooke was startled, thought for a while, and suddenly his eyes lit up. You mean, soul? That's right. Ace also laughed. Your own soul may be the real embodiment of the ability of the fruit of the underworld. If you can freely control your own soul, then when the time comes, can you still use your own soul? What about affecting the souls of others? Having said that, Ace saw that Brooke was deep in thought, and knew that he had already started to think, so he confessed with satisfaction. Next, the first thing you need to do is to be able to freely control your soul out of your body. Yes, Captain. Brooke replied solemnly, turned around and walked back to the cabin, and began to develop the method of leaving the body. At this time, a dilapidated pirate ship slowly docked at the Rapeseed Blossom port in Alabasta. Look, there is a pirate ship coming. This is too miserable. The ship is so broken, I think it is about to fall apart. Don't talk about this, just look at those pirates on the boat. The workers at the port looked in the direction the man pointed out, and immediately saw that all the pirates on the pirate ship had collapsed on the deck. All of them had pale faces, chapped lips, and all looked seriously dehydrated. It seemed that if there was no more water to drink, these pirates would definitely die of dehydration in a short time. These pirates are novices. How dare you go to sea without bringing enough fresh water? You must know that if you go out to sea by boat, you can still catch fish from the sea if you don't have food, but if you don't have fresh water, living for 3 or 4 days is considered a big fortune. Don't say it. Suddenly, one of the port workers seemed to remember something, and pointed to the pirate flag he was wearing with horror on his face and said, That crocodile pirate flag, this is the Sand Crocodile Crocodile's pirate ship. What? Are you talking about the big pirate with a bounty of 81 million Baileys? Impossible. Who can make him so miserable? Someone shouted in disbelief. But before he could say the next sentence, he swallowed it abruptly, because he had already seen a tall man in a black cloak standing on the bow of the boat. Look at the scar on his face, and the iconic golden hook on his right hand. Who is not Crocodile? It's really him. How did his pirate group become like this? Who did it? One question after another popped up in the minds of everyone in the port. In their eyes, Crocodile, with a bounty of 81 million, is already a pirate as powerful as a monster. It is really hard for them to imagine what kind of opponent it is that can make Crocodile's pirate group become like this. Of course Crocodile would not answer them, or in other words, Crocodile simply didn't care about them at this time. I saw that Crocodile's body suddenly scattered into a piece of sand, and a gust of wind was blown up, and it was swept over in an instant. All the port workers were horrified when they saw this horrific scene. This ferocious pirate, wouldn't he just come here and want to kill him? Not daring to think too much, the group of people all turned around and ran away in a panic, forgetting about the goods they were carrying, and throwing them on the ground. But their speed couldn't compare to the fast-moving Kwangsha, and they were all swept into the storm almost instantly. Done. This is the unanimous thought of all workers. But 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 minute. When Kwangsha receded, they checked their bodies carefully one by one, and found that there was no scar on their bodies. Turning his head to look at the pirate ship in disbelief, he saw that Crocodile had stood on the bow again, with more than a dozen buckets rolled up beside him. At this moment, Crocodile was holding a bucket high, gurgling into his mouth filled with water. Ha! Throwing the drunk bucket aside with a plop, Crocodile let out a long breath. If they can't drink any more water, they will really fall this time. Glancing at the port worker who was still standing there behind him, Crocodile's face was gloomy. Roll. With a loud shout, these workers did not dare to stay any longer. Wishing they could use all their limbs, they all disappeared into the port in the blink of an eye. Huh. With a cold snort, Crocodile glanced at those subordinates who fell on the ground around him. His face became even uglier, and he scattered the remaining buckets to them. Crocodile cursed a trash, and then ignored them. Instead, he directly took out the phone bug in his arms. Miss All Sunday, are all the agents here? An elegant female voice came from the opposite side of the phone bug. Yes, Mr. Zero. Except for Mr. Five and his partner Miss Valentine, the rest of the agents have arrived one after another. 20 million elders and 18 million elders, in before tonight, 26 warships will also arrive. Crocodile's eyes narrowed slightly. The members of the Baroque Work Club never knew that their president was Crocodile. But Crocodile didn't care about revealing his identity at all this time, and issued an order to everyone in the work agency to assemble, just to kill Ace and others next to Alabasta. The female voice on the opposite side seemed to hesitate for a moment, but she still said it. Mr. Zero, what you are doing now is not in line with the deal between the two of us. The Baroque Work Agency was established to prepare for the capture of the entire Alabasta. It is not in our interest to expose it. Miss All Sunday's position in the Baroque Work Agency is the vice president, but she is not under Crocodile. To be precise, they are regarded as a cooperative relationship. The two secretly developed the Baroque Agency together. Crocodile is for the legendary ancient weapon Pluto hidden in Alabasta, and Miss All Sunday is for the historical text of Alabasta. The cooperative relationship between the two is more like a deal. Each takes what they need, so now that Crocodile wants to expose the Baroque works in advance, it has indeed violated the interests of Miss All Sunday. Haha, my vice president, don't worry, our deal will still be valid after that Ace is dealt with. Crocodile's eyes flashed, and he was still going to stabilize Miss All Sunday first. Well, I hope so. The phone bug hung up, and Crocodile stood at the bow of the boat, looking at the sea in the distance, with the corners of his mouth raised high, and muttered to himself. This time I will block all the interceptions, if you can get through it safely. What if I, Crocodile, join your pirate group? After saying this, Crocodile didn't care about these useless subordinates, and turned into a burst of mad sand again, and flew towards the depths of the kingdom. Those senior agents of the Baroque studio, he had to meet again in person. At this time, in the sea area around Alabasta, more than a dozen warships were flying the flag of the Baroque Workers Association, and they were rushing to the Alabasta assembly point from all directions. On the sail of one of the warships, two huge numbers 7 and 11 are written. Haha, Mr. 7, our luck is really good this time. A man wearing a polite headband and the number 11 tattooed on his cheek said excitedly, we actually picked up such a big guy at sea. Oh ha, that's right, Mr. 11. A man with the number 7 on both eyebrows, holding two yellow pistols in his hands, also looked at the center of the deck of the warship. I didn't expect that the giant sea thief Pansfree, actually drifting on the sea, so hungry that he has no energy at all. This is a big pirate with a bounty of 30 million Baileys. If we catch him, maybe we can go further in the organization. In the center of the deck of the warship, the giant who was tied into a rice dumpling by thick iron chains was Lily's father, Pansfree. And these two excited men are the two mid-level agents of the Baroque Work Agency, Mr. 7 and Mr. 11. Originally, with the strength of these two people, it was impossible to catch a powerful giant. But helplessly, since Pansfree was separated from his daughter, he has been swimming in the sea for nearly half a month in order to find her, and now he has no strength, so these two guys took advantage of it. Mr. 11 fantasized about his bright future and was very excited, then turned to Mr. 7 and said, Mr. 7, I don't know why. The always mysterious president summoned all the members here this time. I heard that even the senior agents are here all done. And, I have a gossip that Mr. 5 and his partner have died in the mission. After a pause, he said flatteringly, as long as we offer this pirate, you may have a chance to get the position of senior agent this time. Mr. 7's eyes lit up, but after taking a deep breath, he restrained the desire in his eyes, and said, let's put aside the matter of my becoming a senior agent. Let's get through this mission safely first. Have you ever thought about what kind of enemy we need to act collectively from our entire work club? Mr. 11's expression was stiffened by Mr. 7's words, and there was a trace of fear on his face. The enemies who could make them dispatch all were at least as strong as their organization. In such a big battle, even mid-level agents like them can't fully guarantee that they will be safe. Ha. Mr. 11 forced a smile and said, Don't worry. Maybe the president just wants to have a meeting with us. Mr. 7 curled his lips. This kind of words can only deceive children. He is now basically sure that they will face an unprecedentedly powerful enemy. Lily. The two were still thinking, but Pansfree, who had been in a coma, moved at this moment, murmuring his daughter's name. In a daze, he swept his hand towards the side. Boom. Any movement of the giant was not something that the thumping crew could stop. A few crew members who couldn't dodge were immediately rubbed by Pansy's right hand. Immediately, they were hit with broken bones and tendons, and flew out with blood spraying out their mouths. All of them were twisted and fell on the deck, not knowing whether they were alive or dead. Seeing the miserable conditions of those crew members, the two agents jumped back a few steps in fright, and shouted in a panic, "Quick! Fasten him with a few more chains. If this giant breaks free from the shackles, it won't be an easy task to destroy a whole boat of them." But they gave orders, but none of the crew members dared to approach Pansy's body. After all, no one would think his life was too long. Boom. Don't you guys understand what I'm saying? Mr. 7 had a grim look on his face, and with a single shot, he killed the guy who retreated the farthest. Fuck me. The death of the crew made the rest of the people feel cold, and they didn't dare to retreat anymore. After seeing that Pansy was no longer moving, they took out a few thick iron chains slowly, and carefully went forward to tie them to Pansy's body. After the crew retreated, Mr. 7 carefully inspected the iron chains, and only after confirming that Pans had fallen into a coma again and the chains were tied tightly, did he dare to go over. Hateful. The veins on Mr. 7's forehead were exposed, and he was frightened by Pansy just now, which made him feel very shameless. In order to restore his majesty, Mr. 7 first kicked Pansy lightly. Seeing that Pansy was in a deep coma and completely unresponsive to his movements, Mr. 7 dared to kick up hard. He kicked Pansy in the face, crushed it hard a few times, and kept cursing. "Huh? Still want to see your daughter? Dreaming? When we hand you over to the Navy, you will stay in the Navy for the rest of your life. Let's go to the big prison under the sea." Thump. Thump. Mr. 7 kicked Pansy again and again, concealing his inner weakness, as if the more footprints on Pansy's face, the more courageous he would appear. Even if the giants had rough skin and thick flesh, after they fainted, their faces couldn't stand the ravages of others, and they were soon bruised. Just when Mr. 7 was immersed in this distorted pleasure, an angry roar suddenly came from behind their warship. Asshole. Behind the battleship, at some point, a pirate ship appeared, and a black shadow the size of an ant shot out from that ship, making a deafening roar. Mr. 7 turned around in surprise. At first he couldn't find the source of the roar because the shadow was too small. But in the next second, an ant-sized black shadow suddenly expanded in the air, and in the blink of an eye, it had become the size of a normal human being. The cold light emitted by the fork in his hand became more and more conspicuous. But the changes did not stop at all. Under the horrified eyes of these crew members, the black shadow had swelled to tens of meters. The creature that was originally the size of an ant had become a behemoth tens of meters high at this moment. Giant. Mr. 11 roared out in fear. Facing the giant that had already leapt over their warship, he couldn't even bring up the slightest bit of fighting spirit. His legs were trembling non-stop. And Mr. 7 also took his foot back from Pansy's face in a panic, raised his pistol, and instantly shot 2 bullets at the giant in the air. This giant who appeared suddenly was of course Lily. Seeing her father being insulted by the other party, Lily's mind was already filled with anger. After his body swelled to its original giant size, the 20-meter-long fork in his hand pierced the warship in front of him without hesitation. The bullet fired by Mr. 7 could only splash 2 sparks on Lily's fork, and it couldn't hurt Lily at all. Do not. Mr. 7 only came in a hurry and let out a desperate roar, and the cold fork hit him on the body. Boom. The roar of the deck shattered abruptly, and Mr. 7's figure disappeared on the deck in an instant. Only traces of blood oozed from the wreckage of the deck, indicating that the mid-level agent of the Baroque Work Agency had completely left this world. Father. Lily didn't look at Mr. 7 at all. After landing on the deck, she immediately rushed to Pan's side anxiously. But for Lily's call, Pans didn't respond at all, only his lips were chapped, his face pale and motionless. Mr. 11 on the side turned pale with fright when he saw Mr. 7's tragic situation. Seeing that Lily hadn't noticed him for a while, he moved secretly to prepare to escape. Yo ho ho. Where do you want to go? There was a strange laugh from behind Mr. 11. Our captain wants you to stay here. Mr. 11 turned his head and saw a skeleton sticking to his back. The upper and lower jaws kept moving, smiling sinisterly at him. Ghost. Ghost. Mr. 11's eyes were wide open, but his pupils shrank to the size of a pinprick. In an instant, his body was completely drenched in cold sweat. Thump. The next moment, he had already rolled his eyes and fell straight down, being directly fainted by Brooke. Ha ha ha. Brooke, you are really interesting. Lu Fei jumped up and leaned forward, laughing. Ace glanced at it speechlessly. He originally wanted to ask something out of Mr. 11's mouth, but now he probably has to wait a while. None of the ordinary crew members around could laugh. This group of people killed the 2 agents on the ship as soon as they appeared, and they were not the ones who dared to ridicule. Moreover, look at the composition of these people, let alone giants. What the hell is that skeleton? Lily. Your father is short of water. Get him some water and some food along the way. Seeing that Lily was still crying, Ace had to remind him. Lily just woke up like a dream, and quickly shrunk into the cabin. It didn't take long to find more than a dozen buckets of fresh water, and after carefully feeding it to Pans's face looked better. Seeing that Pans was fine for the time being, Ace turned to look at Mr. 11 lying on the ground. Hey. Ace kicked him, seeing that he didn't respond at all, so he said in a cold tone. If you pretend to be dizzy again, I will tie you up and throw you to the ordinary members of the Baroque Work Club. Hearing Ace's words, Mr. 11's body, which was still motionless, suddenly trembled, then stood up abruptly, and begged for mercy nervously. My lord, please don't do this, I will tell you whatever you want to ask. Ace is very satisfied with Mr. 11's reaction. Although this guy is a little smart, he is still acting sensible now. The reason why Mr. 11 is so afraid is because the promotion mechanism of the Baroque Work Club is very special. The number of middle-level agents and senior agents is fixed, so if ordinary members want to be promoted to agents, only the death of the original agent will have a chance. So if there is an agent who can't resist lying in front of them, these ordinary members will not rescue them at all, and the most likely thing is to step forward to make up the last knife. Let me ask you, did you kill this giant? No. Mr. 11 shook his head quickly, as if he was afraid of Ace's misunderstanding. We picked him up in the sea behind. We came to Alabasta this time because of another mission. Oh. Ace raised his eyebrows. He originally thought that these two guys came here to arrest Pansfree, but now it seems that there are other reasons. What mission? GU. I don't know the details. Mr. 11 glanced at Ace carefully, and seeing that Ace's expression had not changed, he continued. However, the president has notified all our members 3 days ago come here to gather. It seems to be to deal with a powerful organization. Hearing this, Ace's heart moved. 3 days ago? Wasn't that the day they played against Crocodile? As for that organization, we are the ones who don't know what to say. Ace whispered to himself with a strange expression. Turning around and looking in the direction of Alabasta, Ace narrowed his eyes slightly. It seems that there is an ambush ahead, waiting for us to get in. But, so what? Ace raised the corner of his mouth, with a very confident smile on his face. Crocodile, you don't think I'm an opponent who can be defeated by numbers? Are you Mr. 11? Ace squinted at Mr. 11, pointed to Lily, and ordered. Take your subordinates and take care of their father and daughter. Also, you can notify your company Long. Just say that the person he was waiting for has arrived. After finishing speaking, Ace took Luffy and Brook with him and jumped up, disappearing on the battleship in an instant. And Mr. 11 froze in place, his eyes flickering constantly. He really didn't understand what this mysterious boy meant. Is he the one the president wants to deal with? If this is the case, since he knew that the president was going to deal with him, why did he take the initiative to ask me to notify the president? No matter. Since he wants to die, I'll let him do it. A hint of ferocity flashed in Mr. 11's eyes. He didn't think that kid just now could deal with an army consisting of members and more than warships. In the kingdom of Alabasta, in the center of the emerging oasis city, Rainland, in the luxurious reception room of the casino Rain Banquet. Crocodile put down the phone bug in his hand with a gloomy face. The news brought by Mr. 11 made his eyelids twitch. That kid Ace actually took the initiative to reveal his position? Doesn't this completely ignore him? The anger exposed the blue veins on Crocodile's forehead, and because of his emotional fluctuations, a lot of golden sand suddenly appeared in the living room, showing some signs of forming a sandstorm. Mr. Zero. Beside him, Miss All Sunday's voice woke Crocodile from his rage. If Ace was here, he would definitely recognize Miss All Sunday as Robin from the Straw Hat Pirates in the anime. The senior agents are already here, it's time for you to release the mission. Robin brushed her hair and reminded gracefully. Crocodile took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his chest, regained the majesty of the president, and glanced at the senior agents at the conference table. When these agents first came, they all looked rebellious, but after Crocodile showed his strength a little, they have become a lot more honest now. Originally, we wouldn't meet so early. The work club is still in the development stage, and it's too early to be full-fledged. Crocker Dalton paused, and then his eyes narrowed, but what I need is a group of subordinates who can be put into actual combat, so today's battle should be regarded as my interview with you. If the enemy can be successfully resolved today, then you will all have the qualifications to go forward with me. Otherwise. When Crocodile said this, his figure turned into desert in an instant, and he passed over the conference table suddenly, and appeared in front of the door of the living room the next moment. Trust me. You're all going to die. All the senior agents broke out in a cold sweat, because they found that at the moment Crocodile passed by, there was a blood hole the size of a grain of sand on their necks at the same time and in the same part. They didn't even have time to activate their devil fruit abilities. What are you still doing? Robin saw that Crocodile had walked out of the living room, so he also walked towards the door with a smile. All work hard. The agents just woke up like a dream, and immediately jumped up from their chairs, rushing out. The top-down organizational form of the Baroque Work Club, which strictly abides by orders, made Crocodile's orders quickly reach the ears of members of the work club at all levels. Within half an hour, the irrelevant personnel in the Rapeseed port had been emptied by the members of the Baroque Work Club. 25 warships loaded with artillery are arranged in formation, like the two wings of wild geese, lined up in 2 rows, extending from the inside of Rapeseed Flowerport. The crew all stayed at their posts confidently, aiming the muzzle of the black hole towards the horizon far away from the island, waiting for the approaching enemy. Strong ships and sharp guns, coupled with thousands of soldiers, gave them the confidence to let the so-called enemy sink forever into the seabed in front of them. Behind the line of defense of the warships, 20 million elders and 18 million elders held weapons and stood ready in the port. Do you think it's necessary? Such a big battle? A member of the commune asked in a low voice to the people around him, with disapproval in his voice. That's right. The combat power we have displayed can already sweep away the military power of some small countries. Coupled with those powerful senior agents, I don't think there will be any surprises in this battle at all. It must be resolved soon. When the battle is over, I will invite you to drink. Ha ha ha. Their discussion elicited a roar of laughter, without any nervousness of an imminent battle. At this time, a small black dot appeared at the end of the horizon, and then the black dot gradually enlarged, and a small pirate ship appeared in the eyes of everyone in Baroque Works. The crew members adjusted the muzzle, looked beyond the pirate ship, and looked further back. This small boat is not even considered an enemy, and the real large army of the enemy must be following this boat. After waiting for a while, they found that there were no other ships behind, only the pirate ship was riding the waves and slowly approaching alone. Seeing this situation, the crew all looked at each other in blank dismay, a little confused. What's the situation? Where is the enemy? What are you all doing? Don't get ready for me. Huangsha flew by, and Crocodile's figure suddenly appeared at the front of Rapeseed Flowerport. On the boat, didn't you see that boat is coming? Don't you want to wait for the other party to rush to your face? Although the president has never shown his face, they are still very familiar with the president's voice, so they immediately understood what the president meant. Is the enemy really that pirate ship? Now the distance between the two sides is a little closer, and they can even see the ruins on the pirate ship due to the explosion. Just such a broken ship, is it worth dispatching their entire Baroque Work Club? You must know that each of their warships is equipped with more than a dozen cannons, and there are 25 warships here. I'm afraid that as long as these warships fire a salvo, the shells falling from the sky can directly submerge that small boat. Although all members were full of doubts, the Baroque Work Club has cruel rules, so the president's order was strictly implemented. The 25 warships started at the same time, forming a semicircle, like an open pocket, and surrounded the slowly approaching pirate ship. Judging from this posture, they don't intend to give each other a chance. At this time, on the pirate ship, Ace and others had all gathered on the deck of the bow. Looking at the Baroque Works fleet that almost completely blocked their sight, Brooke opened his mouth. Captain, there are a lot of enemies. Even you will have to work hard. The corners of Ace's mouth were slightly raised, and he put his hands behind his back. Maybe. But I don't think I need to make a move. Huh. Brooke didn't understand what Ace meant. And Hawkeye also pointed to the small cannon on the bow, and unexpectedly made a joke. You don't make a move. Do you rely on this thing? But as soon as he finished speaking, Ace didn't answer. Hawkeye frowned, as if he had noticed something. He turned his head to look at the sea beside the ship. There is nothing there now. But Ace also looked there with a smile on his face. The next second, the calm sea suddenly raised into an astonishing arc, and then a bright yellow submarine burst out of the water. Is this a boat? Brooke and Luffy's eyes widened, and they lay down on the side of the boat, stretching their necks, trying to see more clearly. It's amazing. This boat can sail in the water. Luffy had already stood on the side of the boat, as if he would jump over at any moment. Luffy's arms have been stretched, and he was about to jump over, but was pulled back by Hawkeye. Little Luffy, don't go over there yet. Hawkeye narrowed his eyes slightly, and he felt several strong auras from this submarine. Of course, the owners of these auras could not pose a threat to him, but Luffy's strength is not enough for the other party to see. Click. The hatch of the submarine was pushed open from the inside, and then a boy in a black suit came out, with 2 samurai swords pinned to his waist, but the most unique thing was that he carried 3 swords on his back. A black spear with a handle more than 2 meters long. This was not over yet, and then 10 boys in suits came out of the cabin one after another, lined up behind the number 1 boy, and each of them also carried 3 black spears on their backs. Hawkeye was slightly moved. He didn't expect that the owners of the submarine who were not weak were so young. Moreover, is the lotus symbol on their foreheads the symbol of their organization? Besides the Navy, what kind of organization can cultivate such a group of strong young people? At this time, they were closer to the warships of the Baroque works, less than 100 meters away, and were about to enter the attack range of the artillery on those warships. It can be seen that the crew on the warship has begun to load the shells, and the torches for ignition have also been grasped by the gunners. Although the crew also saw the submarine that suddenly emerged from the sea, they didn't think that the 2 small boats in front of them could deal with the powerful fleet of the Baroque works. For them, it is nothing more than the need to use more shells to sink this strange ship that suddenly emerged from the sea to the bottom of the sea again. And at this moment, the leader boy in black suddenly raised his right hand, and took out a black spear from behind him. Immediately afterwards, he held the spear in one hand, stepped forward with both feet, aimed at a warship directly in front of him, and assumed a standard throwing posture. What does that kid want? A crew member with good eyes saw the boy's movements from a distance, and said in surprise, "He doesn't want to attack our warship with that thin spear, does he? Couldn't he be a fool? This is a distance of nearly 100 meters, let alone whether he can throw it over." A gunner sneered and said, "Even if he is really born with supernatural powers, if he throws a spear over, he can throw it over. How much impact do we have?" That's right, at most 1 piece of wood can be broken. But they soon saw that the 10 people behind the young man also took out a spear, 2 by 2, put on the same throwing posture, and aimed at the other 5 warships. What's the situation? Do idiots get together too? But at this time, Hawkeye's expression became serious. He didn't think that these mysterious black-clothed boys in front of him were posing in such a funny way. Really. The next moment, the lotus marks on the foreheads of these black-clothed youths flashed at the same time, and then a blue flame burst out from the palms of their right hands, melting the black spears in their hands in an instant, and stretching them out, forming arms thick and long. Nearly 4 meters of flame giant spear. The temperature emanating from the 11 giant spears made the seawater around the submarine tremble, but the faces of these teenagers remained expressionless. Flame again? Eagle's eyes moved, and he couldn't help looking at Ace, but found that he was still looking there with a smile. Seeing that he couldn't find the answer from Ace's face, Hawkeye could only continue to look at these teenagers. After such a short while, the spears in their hands inflated again, and a cold light suddenly flashed in the eyes of the leading young man, and he roared out a word full of anger. "Throw." With an order, 11 flaming spears came out at the same time, as if turning into 11 blue dragons surrounded by flames, piercing the sky at an astonishing speed, leaving 11 white streaks in the sky. The smoke track has shot to their respective targets in an instant. Boom. At this moment, with a loud noise, the 6 warships fell into a sea of flames at the same time. The huge impact force brought by the spears tore the hull into countless pieces, and the flames on the spears even shattered these pieces, completely reduced to ashes. The crew members on those warships stayed in this sea area forever together with their warships before they even had time to scream. The power of the spear is so terrifying. Suddenly, the entire sea area fell into a strange silence. On the remaining warships, all the crew members stopped their movements at the same time, their eyes widened and they froze in place, and their bodies were instantly drenched in cold sweat. Not far from them, the 6 groups were slowly sinking into the flames on the sea surface. Maybe someone was still drinking and bragging with them yesterday. But now, no one thinks they have a chance of surviving. Fear. Fear is the only emotion that fills their hearts at this moment. When they saw that the boys in black didn't stop their movements, but each took another spear from their backs, the fear in their hearts completely exploded. No one cares about the task, no one cares about the status of the job company, they just want to turn around and run away now. Throw. This word, at this moment, seems to be a reminder from the King of Hell, destroying the last line of defense in the hearts of the crew. With the 6 fires igniting again around them, the remaining warships all desperately turned around. Even if the warships even collided with each other because of too much panic, they still did not hesitate, just wanting to be farther away from those devils. Stay away. A little further. That's right, in their eyes, those teenagers in black suits must all be devils from hell, otherwise how could they have such terrifying power? One man at the head, one spear can destroy a mighty warship. As for the 10 teenagers behind him, even if their strength is slightly inferior, their combined efforts are more than enough to destroy a warship. How is it possible? Someone roared in his heart, I must be dreaming. Throw. There was another roar that seemed to penetrate the soul, and 11 fire dragons passed by in an instant, and 6 warships disappeared forever in the sea area again. The crew didn't dare to think about it anymore. They just desperately controlled their warships, hoping that their own ship would not be the opponent's next target. On the deck of the submarine, the 11 teenagers threw all the spears, turned around at the same time, and focused their eyes on Ace. Behind them, there is a fire that soars into the sky.